All right. We're live. Welcome everyone. We got a packed house tonight. So with me tonight is, as you can see the names, we got Trevor, Christian, Kenneth, Will Arroyo, Will Rocks, and Bob Casselberry. I'm James Grayley with Adrenaline, one of the 2 or 3 OG founders. I asked Chad, one of the other founders, to be on with us tonight, but it's his girlfriend's birthday, so he had other plans.
I see where his priorities are at.
That's right. So I thought what we would do is do an origin show, because I have some of the younger guys, even some of the guys that play with us, that just don't know anything about our history. They like our stuff, and Unger started playing with us, didn't even know about the Adrenaline Angel till I mentioned it to him. So had some people ask about the past and how we got started, and I thought, you know what, let's just do a show on it and talk old school. So tonight we're talking basically up to 2002 or 3 or something like that. Starting in really 97 for us. And everybody on here has some sort of role to play in that. Trevor has a monster adrenaline collection. Those are all adrenalines almost, except I think the top 2 on the walls behind him. Christian has a really sweet one I want to talk about later and bribe him to get it from him. Kenneth was one of our early OG customers. I was telling Trevor today he used to call in like twice a week.
Oh yeah.
When he was younger. I don't know how old you were then, but we'll talk about that too.
Yeah, I'm
it's a phone like Chad's Kenneth. So you were probably like 15 or so, maybe.
No, like 18 or 17, okay. Probably. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Bob's a current Angel expert. A lot of people send their guns to him, and he knows a lot about it, all platforms of Angels. And then Will was on one of our pro teams that we sponsored that won everything in the whole world. So anyway, I'm going to start off, if that's okay with everyone, and kind of tell you how we got started, and then I'll pull in you guys. And if anyone has anything to add, shout out, just interrupt me. And if anyone has anything on the comments, I'll be looking at it, and we'll share it. And if you have questions, we'll try to address it. So I guess we'll start with how we got going. So we were all an automag team. And back in the day, it was just automags and autocockers. That was really the only choice you had. And so WDP, I was the guy that was just unhappy with automags on our team. Everybody loved them but me. And so I was trying other stuff. I had a Vector. Probably you guys never heard of that, but I had like serial number 5. I opened out the box and I pulled the trigger. And it was like a fire extinguisher, like legit. The CO2 tank dumped out, and they were calling it a fire extinguisher, and I sent it back. And then right after that, the Angel came out, and I had serial number like 30 of the LED. I had to buy a Govnair because I didn't even know what the tank to use. I had to take it to the dive shop to get it filled. And
was that nitro? Were you running nitro?
It was just compressed air from I think it was compressed air from the dive shop. And it was like $5 a fill or whatever, and I'll never forget Chad, who later become one of the top 2 Angel techs, in the world. We would go to tournaments, and him and Chris from Cobra would be the 2 that WDP would have, and they would run, the tech booth for WDP. So he said, this is like a remote control. It's like electronic. Like if you drop a remote control, it stops working. This is a fad. Electronic guns will never last. You're wasting your money. Stick with your automag. This is a thing that will never stay. And I'll never forget. We went to the very first tournament. And I had the one Angel, and it was so lopsided. I felt like I was just standing on the mound, just like like Predator style. It was crazy. And after the team saw that everybody got him. So. We were probably one of the first teams, because literally we all had like single digit numbers, all black, old ones. But we were always tinkerers. So we immediately started tinkering with it. The trigger pull, I don't know if your LED up there, Trevor, has it. If it's knowing you, it probably is a factory trigger pull, but it was like a 1-inch trigger pull. It was horrible. So immediately we came up with the adrenaline trigger. We did, had no set screws in it at all. We put 2 set screws in it for forward play and back play, and then we put the snake tongue on it, started selling it. And I remember Justin Owen bought one of our early ones because he had an Angel, and he did a story about it in PGI or something, and it just took off. So we went to Skyball that year. Will was there. GZ did really well at that Skyball. I remember that. And we had a booth beside WDP. They were small then, and they were pretty small. We both had one table, And I remember talking to Owen and saying we would like to get some raw guns so that we could, make our own gun, because we'd already by then I think had the air assist. And he said, no way, we're not doing it. Planet has a different one, and that's the only one we're ever going to do. And I said, well, it's just like, yeah, they've got a couple things, but it's mostly milling and anno, and we got some radical stuff, and we want to do it all in one gun. And he said it's not going to happen. So after Skyball, we agreed to buy 10 guns, just regular purchase. We did have a wholesale account, so we paid wholesale, and we bought the 10 guns. And I'm a graduate of Marshall University, and they have a program, which I'm still in that area, where graduates can use all the machines, all the machine shops, all the CAD guys for almost next to nothing. And I made a grant application basically to let us. Yeah, that's what we started with. And if it's the original trigger, like, it was just horrible. I mean, it was better than the automags and autocockers, but it was nothing compared to what we came up. It was like, I felt like it was an inch trigger pull. So we ran our guns.
What division were you playing then?
This was, so the first year we had we didn't play MPPL back then. So it was like Amateur Open, Masters, Music City Open. Lively was still a thing back then. So it was, those type of events. So Skyball, the miscellaneous events. We did not play MPPL yet because we only had 4 guys, let alone 5. And most of those MPPL events were 10 at the time. So we made our guns, and I'll never forget going to the Amateur Open. I've told Trevor this story before. Back, if any of you ever gone to the Amateur Open, everything happened at the Sheraton was like the hotel to stay in at night. So I would get our hotel room at the Sheraton because I was like the organizer guy. Like, I'm talking like January. I would have the best room at the Sheraton. We're talking about the Amateur Open, Will, and I had there was a inner atrium, and I had one of the best rooms, and we could put the banner up. And I remember we were on the balcony, we could see Owen and Jed and John Rice, the WDP guys. And so I said, let's take it was the blue marble and green marble, I think. I said, let's take 2 down and show them to them. So we wrapped them up in the towel because we were unveiling. We're big on unveiling. We like to do that. And we were doing it at the event. So we had them in the towel wrapped up. I remember we come down the elevator, and like John Rice and Jed were like back at a table, but Owen was at the bar. And that's really who we knew. So we go to the bar, and I show it to Owen. He's like drinking, like, I've got a drink now. And he was drinking, and he did one of those things where like I showed it to him, and it like came out of his mouth, like, he coughed up, and he's like, we got to show them. Come here. So we go back to the table, and we laid him out on the table. And John Rice, who was really the main inventor of the Angel, he just started taking it all apart and dissecting it. But Jed looked at it, and he just said, give them whatever they want, whatever they ask for, just give it to them. And he's like, what do you need? And I was like, we have a list, and we need raw guns, so we don't have to strip, and all this, because we had to take all the guns apart. It was a nightmare. So that's how we got into the Angel, and so the Drillin' Angel LED, which was our first main gun, that was in, I don't know, you guys may know better than me, but I want to say August of '97 at that Amateur Open. It's either that or '98, but I think '97, because in '98 we all had them. And a lot of people didn't, and we dominated that year. So like we won the Amateur Open, won the Masters. We just rolled through, we rolled through the the amateur series because we were a talented team, but mostly we just had such better equipment than everyone else. And it was the most lopsided season I've ever been a part of. So the LED we did, I don't know. People have asked me the numbers, not many. I don't know. What's the highest serial number you guys have seen? Maybe like 100?
56? No, it's for the LED.
Double digits?
Yeah, it didn't get into the triples. No way.
That makes sense. That makes
sense.
Say
the highest
I would say maybe
that I worked on was
upper double digits then.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think I saw 72.
72?
Yeah.
Okay. So we didn't do a ton. I mean, really, we were. So I'm 19 years old, at this time. So we're a bunch of little kids. So just buying the first 10 was really hard for us. And it was a lot of money. Still to this day, we don't make much profit. Back then it was the same way. Like we used peers at PK. We were really our gun was the first to do 4-axis milling. If you don't know what that is, that's, XYZ. And if you add an axis, either the head turns or the part turns and another axis. Back then, they looked like what Trevor just showed you. They were pretty much, like a Shocker 4x4. They were square blocks back then. They were very basic. And and even
were you getting people just handing you their guns and say, do that to mine, or were you selling more new ones?
New ones. But that's the only time we ever did the LED. You'll see the serial number, and maybe Bob, you've seen it with an M after it.
Yeah.
One somebody sent in. So anything that's like AA22M, that was something that somebody sent in that we did not make.
Yeah,
That's a modified. I mean, it's the same thing, really. It's just like the first 10. We just tore down a black one, but we wanted to identify that it was used, and we didn't buy it. Wasn't sold brand new.
yeah. Tim's fire is a modified. The fire that I have, the LED, is a modified. Those two I've seen, but I'm sure there's plenty others.
That's the only time we ever did that. So, and we did do that maybe 10 or 15 times on that run, something like that.
Now the two that Tim's and mine has the older style push button HPR and doesn't have any milling on it. Were there any modifieds that you did that you did milling on the HPR?
Chad would probably remember that. We tried to do them all the same. I don't know why we wouldn't have, because really it was just like the 10 I got from Owen. We didn't have to get anything raw to make something work. We could have done it all the same. So
maybe it's just the push button regs that you couldn't mill down.
Yeah.
I've never seen a push button reg with milling on it from Adrenaline.
Yeah, we couldn't.
Yeah.
We couldn't. That's it. That's the difference. So I would say probably upper 70s then. It sounds like if anyone else has one higher than 70, then let us know, comment or hit us up. But I don't know the answer. I've told Trevor before, we had a handwritten piece of paper for every gun we ever sold and who it went to. Now I use a really fancy spreadsheet system, but we can't find that paper. So who knows? I wish we could.
It's the black book, bro.
That's right. We need it.
Going to be on Antiques Roadshow.
That's right. And it's Chad's writing, who writes like a second grader. So it'd be cool just to see, it. But we were the first one to do the 4-axis, and we were the first one really to engage on a production level PK, because back then everything was really, black or like blue or red, and I'd heard of PK, and I went on their website. Mostly it was guitars at the time. They had a couple paintball guns on there, an Automag or an Autococker. I think it was Autococker. But he had his guitars. That's what they were. Peter Kellett was big into doing guitars. And I remember I dealt with Piers, and he said, yeah, let's do some. And he started with those marbles. So the first 10 we did, I think, were all marbles, that 10 that we brought to the Amateur Open. So our team serial numbers are going to be what Christian has. So Christian has my gun. That's the one I took to the Amateur Open to use. And I think we did, of the 10, like 5 of them were for us, so we did 5 in the gray team, the gray marble team. And then we did like a green, a blue, a red, that kind of thing. So, but it was pretty radical because, the milling and anno, I mean, that's not, we've never been about that, but that was a time when milling and anno were just not a thing. And so it was pretty radical. And that's what sold Jet on it, really. But John was working in the internals. I've talked to Trevor about this before. We got in a argument that night at the bar because we used stainless steel hammers. And, what we typically do is to make a gun, we play with it and we ask people. So like when we made the Shocker, I asked all the OLAs, especially those guys who'd been using them for a while, what are you seeing? What would you like changed? Anyone that's got a lot of gun time on it. And we were the guinea pigs on the Angel. And I just remember always opening up and seeing brass shavings, all over the place. And at this time, I'm not used to that. And I'm thinking, this can't be good. So we switched it out to stainless steel, and John flipped his lid and said, can't do this. This is going to ruin the gun. And I said, why? And we really got into it. And Chad is more of our engineer type, and they're arguing over it. And John said they designed it for brass so that the hammer would give and not the body. So if the ram was out of line and hidden on the body, it wouldn't mess up the body and break through it. It would be the hammer that would go away. And I mean, I'm not saying we were right, but if you guys have seen any with a blown out the side of the body, I don't know. There's not many of them over the years, but
I was going to say, actually, James, early in the days of stainless steel hammers, if they found one at an event with a stainless steel hammer, they would void your warranty.
Yes, and we flipped out once. So after we got in with them, I'd heard rumors about that, and they were changing them. And people were like, "Hey, they changed at the event. What's up with that?" And I dealt with them. I said, "Look, you said whatever you want. You got to leave our hammers alone. They're going to be okay. They're not going to blow out the side of the body. If so, you've got something majorly wrong with your ram. That's not our fault, And to this day, I haven't seen a bunch of Angels with the left side of it or whatever side of it is, just totally, utterly destroyed.
No, I mean, I've worked on so many of them. I have yet to see a stainless hammer actually do any measurable damage to any side of the body, even even if it's, stripped ram threads or anything like that, it hasn't, gone off at an angle enough to even affect the body.
Yeah, I have seen some wear. We saw some wear over time, but like I said, the brass is just it was in 2 or 3 months we're seeing shavings, so and also the dents. I didn't like that where the pin went in, you could see the dents. Have you guys seen that before? Where you see the dents in the brass?
Oh yeah.
So we're like, we gotta fix this.
It would always change your bolt rollback, and it would change where your breech was aligned and everything like that constantly. So you'd constantly have to make a ram adjustment to make up for it. So to me, the stainless steel hammers were honestly kind of a godsend. I mean, you could actually keep your gun in time and in tune where you wanted it much longer.
The Untitled, like you can see the encryptions there really well. The top back of it. I had people see that recently because I've shown pictures of it, and they're like, "What is that little plug thing?" And I said, "That's for the Untitled," and they're like, "What's that?" I mean, they were talking to people that are like 27, but the original hoppers that were fast enough to keep up, the view loader, the Revy or the view loader 2000 had a wire that would tell it when to feed. And the original design on the Angel, like for the one that Trevor has, I don't know does it have it on the back, Trevor?
Yeah.
On the LED, it's back here. Yeah.
They designed it on the back, so it was put some stress on it. It would make it, but it would be right stressed to the limit. So we moved that to the top, and really just that's how we've always done things, is just try to think things through, like, okay, what makes sense here and what needs to be done. And we kind of tear it apart and say, and we really come up with about 15, 20 ideas that are dumb and just don't work out. And the ones that we think, even if they help 1 or 2%, we'll keep them. And the air assist is one of those. So people say, how much do you get out of the air assist? What's it? It's probably only giving you, 5% improvement or something. And we didn't have no problem with that because, we try to do 10 or 15, 5% improvements, then you end up with a major improvement. I don't think it's
speaking of the air assist, I've actually done some testing on it. For the longest time, I thought it was mainly just like a novelty or like a selling factor. But a lot of times if your LPR is cranked just maybe 3 or 4 PSI too high, the air assist will combat the balls blowing up the feed neck. I have actually, Ken, your what is it? Your Fire LCD Adrenaline, I have on slow motion with, I think the LPR set to like 91, and on camera in slow motion, you can see the balls go up the feed neck and then come back down. So with air, and that was with low rise on though. With high rise with air assist, I do think it combats it a little bit. So there is.
Funny you mentioned. By the way,
some,
too, we were very kind of a redneck kind of assembly area. And Chad would actually, our technology was toilet paper. He would take like 3 or 4 squares of toilet paper, and he would set each gun up by hand, and he would just lay it across.
You lay it on top.
Yep, lay it on top. And if it went up, he's got to work on it. If it
that's how you
good. That's legit.
That's how you used to tune. That's how you used to tune autocockers.
Yeah. You wanted it to suck in.
Yeah.
But without it setting up right, I mean, it could literally, I've seen them. I look over because I'm doing the phone and sales, and I look over and, toilet paper's flying. So, but yeah, I think that we thought it worked. I mean, we thought, like I said, it's not a game changer, but it helps. And that's kind of how we've always viewed, like, this helps a little, that helps a little, does the volumizer help a ton? Maybe not, but anything you think that can help a little, you throw it at it, and then the sum of all parts kind of adds up, and you can tell it. You can feel the difference.
Were you making your own hammers?
Yeah. So our team, we were so lucky. So I was like an IT computer website designer guy. We had a machinist on our team. So one of our Levi's, one of the original owners, who I've shared his team, the Blue Eclipse, the Speedy Blue, whatever it's called, team LCD before, and everybody's like made him immediate offers, but he's like got it locked up in a safe. But he was a full-time machinist. So in the evenings or on after hours and the weekends, he would go in and make like 100 hammers. He made the high rises. I mean, we made all that stuff. So the only thing we didn't make, I want to say we maybe had CP make the low rises for some reason. I think he couldn't make it a cost effective. And, back then CP, you could hire him to do, they would want to run like 500 units, but they could do it pretty cost effective. And he would always run the numbers and like, I can't beat that price. And I think they may have made the low rises, which I don't think that came out even until the LCD.
And the volleys too, you were making?
Yeah, we made those. Yep.
You guys did a couple low rises, but they were the what you would do is you would take a stock WDP feed neck, but like this style, and you would match it to the gun. But the actual adrenaline low rises didn't come out until the LCD.
Until the LCD Featherlight, right?
Yeah.
The so we made the adrenalizer is what we called it. We made the hammer. We did the gun machining. It's funny. I would go to the bird center at like 10 o'clock at night because they'd let you lock up, and it took like 2 hours to run that. And so you just put it in there and sit and watch it. But for the most part, it ran flawless. So you just hit start and just kind of twiddle. It was before phones, so I couldn't browse on the internet. But
yeah, I was just gonna ask you, what did you do while you were just standing there for 3 hours looking at it?
We did destroy one. We've had maybe a couple that got destroyed. Chuck comes loose. It was a drill bit usually. Like if a drill bit broke and you weren't paying attention because you had like the emergency stop, that happened a couple times. And we were really frustrated. Like our relationship with Smart Parts and later, Shocker and those guys, I could say, hey, I broke a body. And they'd be like, oh, it's, we'll hook you up for cost. I remember when the first body we broke, Owen's like, well, that's $900, or whatever. It was like full price, or whatever our wholesale price was. And I said, we don't need the box. We don't need all the other stuff. We just need one body. What do you have in that? And he said 900. We were pretty frustrated over that.
Jeez.
So we were much more careful in the future. Again, we were like 20, so we were watching those a lot more carefully in the future.
I bet.
Were you programming the mill?
No, there was a guy. His name was Wu, and we took they make gun modeling clay, and Chad made it. That gun, it looked just like that, really. We all kind of came up with a design, and he made it out of gun modeling clay, and brought it in and handed it to him, and he came up with the CAD program and did a great job. And again, it was like pennies on the dollar because of this kind of a government, partially sponsored government program that you had to submit the application and get approved and all that, and we did. Then so fast forward, we made, that's not a lot, I guess, really over a couple years. So you're talking 97, 98, 99, we only did, 70, 80 guns. But for that, I guess back then for a couple, a bunch of kids that were, had jobs, and this was definitely on the side, that wasn't bad at all. And we were doing accessories, we sold the triggers. We were the first ones that I know of, you tell me if I'm wrong, that really mass produced the double trigger, because there was no double trigger for the LED. So the only way you could do it was with the die trigger guard. So, and really nobody asked for that. So like the first 20, 30 guns, everyone's single triggers, and die had that trigger guard, and somebody asked for one. And then somebody's like, yes, that thing, that's the only way you could get the double trigger on the LED. So, exactly. So somebody got a couple of those, and they started walking it with our adrenaline trigger. And next thing you know, it was like no looking back. It was a game changer, really, was doing that.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of your double trigger, this one, I don't know if you guys will be able to see it, but I believe this is one of your early ones, because this one does not have your signature lightning stripe on it. It is actually milled, but
is it not chrome dipped either on the bottom?
Nope, it is not. I believe it's one of the early ones.
I've
seen some of these. They're like Ninja Black. It's I don't know what the story is behind them. I think it's kind of like
that's first generation. That's earlier. That's what that is. We came up with the chrome and the lightning bolt later.
Yep. So that's why I wanted to bring this one up there, but mainly because of that trigger. Because I'm like, wow, this one's kind of like one of the first probably 10 triggers you guys made.
It is. I can't remember. I wish I could remember who had that idea, but we're trying to flash it up a little bit because we were selling it for top dollar, and really it was just a couple Allen. We drilled it. We did that work. We put the Allen set screws in it, and we had like 3 springs, if I recall. I remember I had to buy 1,000 of each spring. We spec'd those springs out and had them made from some spring company, and I had to buy like 1,000 of each. But we wanted to do something else, and Piers did that too. He hated it. He absolutely hated it because he had to. Like now I can laser it in 10 seconds. He had to like mask it off each time, both sides. And sometimes they bled, so some of you guys may have seen them where the chrome is bled out a little bit.
So was the lightning bolt chrome? I mean, I know the snake tongue tip was chrome, but the lightning bolt was chrome too.
I know it's masked. It's not like a lasering thing. It's either silver anodizing or chrome, It's definitely not. I mean, they didn't laser back then.
They didn't laser back then. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely a masked product. You know, they masked it off and made it.
Christian, how some of those Eclipse LEDs that had some lasering here, when do you think that work was done?
That's a good question. I don't know. I have an Eclipse LED that somebody lasered their name in.
I'm just wondering when
Yeah,
lasering started to come in vogue in paintball. You know what I mean? Where you can start just lasering to the clear aluminum.
Yeah, I think it was after this. You know what I mean? Like a few years. So anyway, I'll transition. Let's see if there's any questions I want to bring up. All right, so we're gonna fast forward a little bit. So we started to make another order of like I don't know, the 10. You know, we didn't do big volume back then, and Owen's like, "Well, hold off on this order. We're getting ready to come out with something," and it sucked for us because literally it takes us forever to come up with all of our mods. You know, we try to like really think them through, and shortly after that they came out with the LCD, so which meant we were way behind on getting a gun out. So we didn't do any more LEDs, and that was a big delay. So we had a period with no sales. I would say, months and months, because it always takes us, almost a year to design a gun. But that one was that game changer. It was just, we got to use some of the concepts like, hey, can we use an air assist still? Yeah, we could. So we had a starting point. But the one thing we did then, I remember to this day, is we did the feather in secret. So people knew back then. I don't know if any of you guys remember, maybe Kenneth remembers, but we were doing pre-orders. We said we have an LCD coming out. A lot of people bought those sight unseen. We had a lot of those were sold before we ever released them, but not one feather was sold because it was a secret. So we released them on the exact same day, and it was Alex, I think, or Max from Joy Division, and Alex was actually on GZ at the time. I wish Will was on. He has bad connection, he said. But one of those two, I think it was Alex, the model guy, had said, forget all this, like just take everything off, just rip it to the bone, make one, absolute bare minimum that you can, and I would love it, and it'll be a hit. And I thought, well, me and Chad were like, okay, we can try that. No one's done that yet. Everyone, the guns were huge, and no one really took much off. They started with the huge part and just made designs, but no one really went to the bare bone. And again, it wasn't really our idea; it was Alex's. But we implemented it and did that feather at the exact same time. Oh, there you go. And I'll never forget the very first one we did. So now people have seen over the years.
Yeah, where's the red, white, and blue?
He's like, I'll see your Iron Man.
Let me raise
these are all kind of different.
Well, we had to mess with them because
I've noticed.
I mean, like we went it's literally up to the absolute limit. Yeah, that's a nice one. They're both so nice. Yeah. We went absolutely right to the edge of what's possible, and then we went really too far. Our very first one.
And then you had to back off. Yeah.
Yeah. So we backed off on the first one after the feed neck broke, and we thought, okay, this is good. And then, months in, a couple months in, somebody's like, I broke my feed neck, and we're like, oh no. And so we added even more. So I can't tell.
So see, Trevor, look on yours. Does the barrel meet right up with the breech? Like on the same plane, pretty much.
Boomstick though.
It's very close, but I do have an aluminum freak back on it.
Yeah, because I have a later one that there's more meat here. Anyways, it's just and this one you can see there's like no meat on the neck, like right there.
You can see there's like a gap right here to where like the aluminum when it like flaked in. It's hard to see.
But on mine, you can see threads on mine.
Because that was nothing.
It's absolutely right to the limit. And
like there's like a I don't know, like a 16th right there of between the.
How's your
guys now would ever allow that? They'd be like, no way, But we were just a bunch of kids, so we're like, yeah, let's good, ship it, let's rock it.
It's like the notched one, yeah.
We literally could not have gone anymore, and really we shouldn't have gone as far as we have. But really, I think you're talking about the barrel being right against the threads. I've not seen anywhere like the barrel's broken through, but we've seen plenty of where the low rises, have.
See, whereas this one, there's a good gap, or there's a good step right there.
Yeah, I think you'd have to put that infinity on it to.
It's the same. Comparison. I mean, I have an infinity. It's the same.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. We definitely. We were, as soon as you start getting a small company, you get reports of people breaking things off. We're like, okay, we need to change this now.
Yeah.
And that's so there's a lot of low rises that have the JB Weld or whatever, they're on permanent, and there's probably not a lot of them out there that just are threaded on low rises because we didn't make a lot anyway, maybe 20, 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually remember seeing a couple of them that have worked on that. Sometimes the area
there was nothing back there, huh?
There would
Yes.
go through.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys went even on the standard. You guys went like really close above the ropes here.
Yep. But the feather, we had a couple that broke through, just little tiny.
Let's see.
Is that what?
Yeah, left a little meat just so you can have something around there.
Yeah.
Both of mine peek through like that, like Trevor's. Both of mine are peeking through like that.
It's literally right up to the very limit. And like I said, these days, no one would allow it. Like when we deal with the CAD guys and the machinists, they're like, no, this won't work. You need to add X thousands. But we didn't have anyone to spot check us back then. So we just said, looks good. Let's roll with it. And I tell you what really set that one off.
That one's on both sides, actually.
Yeah, mine's on both sides too.
Like Kenneth said, even the regular one, was pretty aggressive.
Yeah, in fact, my original Fire LCD, I think it was this side here. I think the rope wasn't there, and it just the tiniest bit was peeking through on the edge where you guys went on the flats here.
I tell you what set that feather off though. So in 2000, we sponsored the Ironman, and Oliver Lang was 16, and he'd never really played pro. He was like, everybody was talking about him, he hadn't played pro yet. He was on Cap Kids, I think is what it was, one of the kids teams. I think it was Cap Kids because we played them.
I think he was on Iron. Was he on Iron Kids? Anyways.
Iron Kids. Yeah, he played on Cap Kids and Iron Kids. But yes, he was everybody was saying like, oh, this kid's going to be something. So he turned pro in 2000 at 16, and that was the year we sponsored the SC Ironman. They had split from what became Bob Long's Ironman, and they didn't have. I was talking to Rich Telford about this a while back. They didn't really have a good gun deal because Bob had all these contacts, and Dave, the die thing was coming, but it wasn't huge. Like I've told people before, the first amateur open in 97 or 8, whenever we had that booth, we had a much bigger display than Dave did. He just had some boomsticks and like he just had them laid out on the table, and we're like, oh, that's cool. Nice to meet you. We had put his stuff on our gun, so we were like, we knew the guy, but now of course they're running tractor trailers and stuff. But anyway, the gun deal was just 12 guns. We'll give you 12 guns for free, and maybe it was 13. How many players they had, and you shoot our stuff, and of course they just started winning everything. They went off, and then Oliver was on the cover of PGI with the feather, and then everybody wanted it. They wanted to shoot what he was shooting. And it looked just like Christian's. That's exactly what it looked like, and so everybody wanted to order that. And it just,
I think his was a single.
Yeah, his was a single. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. But it's the marketing aspect of it too. Like if you look at the designs we did back in the day, like by far the most popular one was the Ironman Steel Blue, which is cool looking. Don't get me wrong, but it wouldn't be my first pick of all the ones that Piers did. Like most people could do that Steel Blue, but it's the Ironman gun. So like it was a back order, everybody wanted it. That just goes to show that it does pay to sponsor these pro teams. At least it did back then. Maybe now back then it mattered,
Sorry.
Oh
yeah. But that's by far our most popular gun of any gun platform we've ever sold. And the second most popular is the
GT Red,
Blood Red. So two solid collars that everybody say, oh, I like solid collars, but no, you'd rather have a Mountain Dew or something.
Yeah, you want something cool,
right, right, like a fire. Yeah, right. Like it should be a no-brainer. But they're like, we got this, and this. Oh, I'll take the Blood Red. It's just red. Well, it's GZ Blood Red. But it's red. But that shows the power of sponsoring. And after Ironman won everything that year, they literally dominated. Dave came back at the end of the year, and it was like, hey, we've won everything. We're getting offers like 60 guns. And I said, look, you know how big we are. We're not giving you 60 guns. And he's like, I know. I just wanted to give you first opportunity. We're real happy, but we're going to take our deal. And I said, I don't blame you. Like I would take 60 guns too. Best luck. It's been a pleasure. And so I remember telling Chad, like, we have to find another team because that was great for us. We sold a lot of Ironman guns, and back then, I don't remember what I was shooting really in 2001, but a lot of the pro teams had guns. So we kind of had to like go down the ranks a significant amount. And I was like I said, I did websites and stuff. So I was always up late working on the website. And I was always talking in the middle of the night, like 2 a.m. to Jim Murray, who ran Paintball City. If you guys remember Paintball City.
I remember Paintball City.
Bigger than PB Nation. It was the first website really that was big, much bigger than PB Nation in the beginning. And so I was always talking to Jimmy, 2 a.m. and I remember one night, like, hey, we need a pro team. Would you guys be interested? They did not have a gun deal, and they had won Portland like in '98, years ago. But other than that, they hadn't done much, and so we could get them for 12 guns. That's what we needed. We needed somebody we could afford that had some potential. And they had just gotten Nicky Cuba and Will was on the team. We kind of knew the guys and thought these guys had a chance. But they also had crappy guns. They run what you brung. They just brought their own stuff, So we outfitted those guys with those GZ Blood Red ones, and they won the first. The Iron Men refed LA, and GZ won, and they fought them all year long and won the world title. They went in the Millennium and all that, and that really, really put us on the map because we won back-to-back years with our team, a different team, and that was a game changer for us. And again, the second most popular gun we ever had was the Blood Red. And I think Will sold his, but a couple of guys on this team, Steve Casano, a couple of guys have those. I think Jim Murray still has
his name. Hold on, what was his name?
Right? He won't let it go. I guarantee it. It's on his wall.
I tell you what, James, it's actually funny you mentioned Jim Murray, because the first Angel that I purchased was actually a Blue Stars and the Stripes from none other than Jim Murray.
Yeah, they had it. They had some Angels, like Will was talking about earlier when he was on here. They had one of those, and I wish he was on here now. He had bad connection, but that's when they came up with the eye. They developed the eye. Iggy or whatever his name was, whoever they knew, they knew some guy that could do it, and he did them on their guns first, and that was a game changer for them.
Yeah.
But still, we could fire 14 a second with that high rise. People today, if you look at our shocker post, they're like, "Oh, look at that mid rise," or they call it a high rise, but we call it a mid because I know what a high is. That's why we call it mid. But they're like, "Look at that high rise. That's gross. That's so tall." And I'm like, "That's nothing.
Nothing.
Those are skyscrapers right there." Yeah, and you got the gun. Like it's the Angel's still tall. I was gonna say the Angel's still taller. You don't have them level. Yeah, it's double.
Yeah.
And I've gotten with fights over on the internet
no
with people whether that works.
No.
Yeah, this was your low rise. Your low rise.
Right, that's the low.
That's a low. Yeah, low rise.
With the Revy, that's pushing it. That's like, oh, wonderful speed.
Yeah, you gotta open the roto breach still. You know what I'm saying?
Right. There's some experts, so-called experts online. We've gotten fights on these mid rises when we brought them back on the shocker. It was a no-brainer. Right when we sat down with the shocker, we said, okay, it won't keep up in mechanical without chopping sometimes. That was the very first thing we did. And guys were like, this is dumb. It doesn't make a difference. I was like, you're crazy. Like every inch we add in the Angel would give us a couple BPS. It's a no-brainer. It is proven technology. So it's not like we had to even think twice about that. That's a big difference maker.
No, it just had to be old enough to know.
Right.
Yeah. Around the shocker, the Bunker King's control loader with the high rise is like that's the best setup you can go with for Mac in terms of
I agree because the rotor is faster, but I had a problem once before with it during a match during ICC, our first year at ICC, during an important match, and it just completely jammed up, and I didn't know how to use it, so I didn't know how to fix it during the match. So I had it in my hand and I was feeding them in. It was a disaster.
Oh man!
And I was screaming and cussing. I'm sure there's video of it. It was horrible. I was cussing the hopper out, and so those things just work, but they're not force fed. So we're like, okay, we got to make these reliable ones somehow work faster. But with control, they've changed the way it tells it when to feed. Instead of being reactive, it's a little more proactive. And so between those two, and I don't know if you have the ramps, but I was talking to the designer of that
dual ramps.
It may make a difference, for the control hopper. It may make a difference because, it's like when the hopper's almost empty, it's not going to do well. Well, that's the same thing as condensing all the balls. So I don't have one, but he was saying if you shot one with a mech to try the ramps.
Hey, James, would you mind explaining to everyone how you came out with the milling for either your LED or LCD? I think you said you had modeling clay or wood or something.
Yeah, so they make so the very first time we used like clay, like Play-Doh type clay, you know what I mean? Like think of Ghost, the movie, you know? But then they actually have like gun modeling clay, like it's designed for that. And you can buy it. It's like a black color and you can scrape on it and add to it. And we actually used that in the last project. And so we had a design, we wanted to twist it, right? Which was really, it's not really twisted, right? Like it was a 4-axis, but nothing twisted. It was just it's really the way the Ripper is made. You just take a bit, like let's say it's a 3/8 bit, and it would just go this, you know, and that's how Ripper's made. It's just made a lot closer, you know, with a smaller bit, you know, same concept. But it gives that look of the twist. And it was pretty radical for the time, you know, on the LED. And then we did the LCD. We wanted to twist in the front and the back. So we came up with that, you know, the rope concept. The twist was our thing for the longest time. I have a question here, and so you guys would know this better than me. So on the confetti anodizing, is it nickel plated and then anodizing on top of that? Is he talking about the Jersey Storm?
It's like the ice, and you did other renditions of it, at least with the LCD.
Like other colors?
Yeah, you had there's like a Mardi Gras looking one that was mostly pink and purple. There's a red and pink one.
I don't even remember. So if it is like the ice, then that is it. So they would nickel. It's not chrome. It's nickel plated, and then they would anodize on top of it. So because I've seen some people that they call confetti, and they showed me a picture, and it was the Jersey Storm that Trevor had, or I don't know if he still has it or not. But do you still have that one?
Yeah.
So
this confetti and
this is silver. This doesn't have the chrome plating or whatever.
So someone called that confetti to me, and I said, "Well, I just call that Jersey Storm," which was a sponsor team we had. We sponsored some, you know, lower level amateur teams, and they all got that, and they're the only ones that ever did. So I just call it the Jersey Storm pattern. But is that what
that confetti? I'm pretty sure it did have. It was either nickel plating or chrome plating.
Or chrome.
You think it was chrome instead of nickel?
I don't think we ever.
I think it was chrome. No, just nickel.
I could be wrong. You could look at the color and tell, but like ice is nickel.
Well, I mean,
if
they're all nickel. You have to put nickel to put on the chrome.
Yeah, that's the starting point to make it stick.
Yeah.
I guess.
What is interesting, I don't think anyone since the early 2000s, like Adrenaline days, has been able to replicate that chrome or nickel with anodizing pattern. Have you guys seen anything?
Yeah, that's what I'm curious, because you can't anodize nickel or chrome. It has to be like the chrome pattern and then anodizing afterwards.
I don't know how he did it, and that's the thing with Piers is he took so many ideas with him, and
me bring it back.
You know, so like when we did Kenneth's guns, you can imagine like a collector, the instructions. Like any of you guys would have given me instructions, they were like that, you know, to Rob from Blizzard. You know, Kenneth gave me like, you know, pictures upon pictures upon pictures. Usually I send Rob like 2 pictures, but like, here's what the guy wants, you know. With Kenneth, I sent him a ton. I said, because you're trying to recreate, you know, what we're trying, black marble and
marble in the fire.
Yeah. And I had shown Steven from Caustic, both of those in the beginning. And he's like, one of those, I have no clue. He said, I can try, you know, but I have no clue how Piers did that. You know, no one does. So, you know, we thought we'd give Rob a try, and he did a great job. But that's the thing, like Piers took so much of that with him, you know, and because I guess I don't know nothing about anodizing, but I guess sometimes it's trial and error, and then you get it to work. It's like, you know, your thing, I guess. You know?
I think there's a lot of voodoo involved.
Yeah, it must be. You know,
well, with some of those patterns with the chrome, what I had heard from some anodizers is that the gun is actually anodized first, nickel plated over it, and then they use an acid or an acid wash to remove some of the chrome to show the anodizing pattern underneath.
Oh, jeez.
Which either way, it sounds like voodoo magic to have it turn out and actually look like anything other than a third grader's art project.
Well, you have to get on into your basement. I think you have Piers Wiggett under lock and key down there. You're pulling out all of his secrets.
Well, I mean, I do have a small addiction to getting guns anodized, which thankfully my wife is not home right now, so she didn't really admit that. So, but I've had a lot of late night conversations with you know, some of the older anodizers and some of the new guys and everything like that. And you know, to your guys' point, there's a lot of stuff that the new guys will not touch just because there's there's no foolproof way to actually recreate it.
Well, and I still talk to Piers. Well, I haven't in maybe a year now, but like he's on Facebook. You can reach out to him and find him. He's in New Zealand. If you find a Piers Wiggett in New Zealand, that's him, And I asked him about, sharing some secrets, mostly about the Thunderstruck when we started that. And we worked on a deal for probably 2 months. It was a very significant cost, that he wanted for it. And if I was doing 30 or 40, it would have worked out, but I wanted to keep those in the single digits. And I couldn't pay him what he wanted for the secrets without charging a stupid amount for the pattern. So I talked to Caustic. I was like, look, here's what he's wanting from me. Can you practice? And I'll pay you much less, but I'll pay you to practice. And that's how we did it, because it was a really high amount that Piers, and I don't blame him. That's his IP, his hard work, and it's his right to ask for that. But I just couldn't. I told him, I said, I just can't financially make it work, because these guys don't want me to make 50 of them. That'll ruin it, so I'm limited to what I can spend. But I'm sure he'd give some secrets up, I guess, is my point. If someone would pay him a few bucks, if you had a big enough project that you really wanted, it could be done, I'm sure. So someone asks, so Joey asks if we know the serials for the actual team guns, because this was supposedly on for the win.
For the Iron Man ones, I mean, supposedly I have
Most
one that
had
was
LCDs.
from.
There was only maybe 2 or 3 feathers.
The one that I have, and I don't know for sure if it was a team gun or if it was one that was bought by a customer, but it's supposedly from Brian Benini, and it's like 235, I want to say. I don't know, but this fire and then the one that I originally bought from you guys back in 2000 were like in like 135, 137. You started the LCDs in the hundreds, right?
I think so. Just try to make it not overlap. I think that's right.
Right, overlapping the LEDs.
Yeah,
so like the early LCDs and are again probably in the low hundreds. But I can't substantiate that either.
Yeah, I don't know the number. I actually don't know this. It would be on that mystery sheet of paper, for sure. It would say like.
I was gonna say, I broke your mystery sheet of paper because this one doesn't have a serial number.
Yeah, that one's bare.
Oh, really? Well, maybe it's a team gun. Maybe I don't know. Even that.
I mean, it has a WGP serial number, but no AA.
Huh?
Did you say WGP, Christian?
WDP.
Oh, for shame.
Hey,
I
so
did.
he asked how much.
I
I'll just tell you, because like, why am
P.
I haven't? It's like not Pierce is my brother-in-law or anything. He wanted, I think it was 6,000 or 7,000 is what he wanted. But the problem is, so let's say I do
for the secrets.
for the
1
work.
hour
on the call with Steven to say, here's how you do it, Steven, for that basically the hour with video or photographs of like confirming or no, you want to change this, change that. And so I was just running the number. Well, one, I don't want everybody making it. So I told Steven, look, if you and I could go in a partnership and make it 100 times, that's a different thing, but I don't want there to be a bunch. So I don't want that. So if I had $6,000 and 9 guns, plus I got to pay Steven a stupid amount. I mean, it's not stupid. He earned it, but he wants paid too. He's doing the work, so it just, I would have, 1,500 in the pattern or so per gun. And it just, I couldn't justify, it's impossible to make that finance. Nobody's going to buy those, right? Maybe a couple people, but we just decided that it's better just to, Steven's brilliant too. He's kind of like Piers, he's developed some of his own that nobody can do, and some of the ones he's willing to share, and he's taught people, the other places how to do them. But it just wouldn't work for us. I couldn't, I tried. I was like, man, I really want to do this, and I'm sure he would have done it for an hour or 2 on the phone. That's a no-brainer for him too. So if someone out there hits the lottery and wants it, I'm sure. And I actually said, let me just ship him to you. I'll ship him to New Zealand. You find a local facility, do them right, and ship them back. And he said, I'm not willing to do that. I don't know why. Maybe he's just completely walked away. He's just done with it. I don't know. But we wanted to. That would have been sweet, but we just couldn't swing it.
They still came out really, really well, though.
They're good because it's something that's worth $6,000 for an hour to know the secret, and that's how close he got. You know what I mean? So that shows you, it's Piers thinks it's that hard, and that's how close he got. So and he tried. Some of you guys, I don't know if Christian ever saw some of the early ones because he was on the list. He would send me tries, and I was like, oh, well, that's not good. Like it was early on. He goes like, I tried this, and I was like, okay, keep working.
trying.
Yeah, like appreciate the effort. And then he started getting closer and closer and closer, and I told him some stuff that Piers had told me over the years, like just casually, like, oh, I ran out of this, and I'm like, oh, that's a weird thing to be using anodizing. So I was like, well, Piers mentioned this weird thing. Try using that in some way. And so he did, and that really helped a lot, I guess. So, yeah, it's a tribute.
You can even see in Piers's work, there's like a slight evolution. Like the early ones are, he definitely got better at it over time.
Yeah, he refined.
The early LEDs are definitely a lot kind of lighter, and then later on he kind of has more dark stuff.
It's one LED.
It's one LED. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
The LED.
So there's LED.
Right. So
sorry it's so like glary, but that's just how
sorry to interrupt too. I'm gonna say this. I don't the serial number 224. I don't think that's an Ironman gun, but what did you say yours is, Kenneth?
Yeah, I think mine was 223. I'll have to look.
Okay.
That's close.
So if it's right in that line, then it may be, because we would have done them we would have shipped them like 15 in a batch. You know what I mean? Like back to back. So it's possible. I tell you one way to tell is if it looks like crap, because those guys, depends on where they played. Like if it's Michael McLaughlin or Rich Telford in the back, no offense to those guys, maybe not. But most of those guys, were running Dobbin on that California mud all the time. So whenever we would get their guns into tech, I was like, oh my gosh, but they were playing again.
They were rough on stuff, right?
Yeah,
that's another way to tell, Joey.
I've yet to see a pro-owned Angel that does not look like they just drug it behind an F-250 with a bungee cord down a gravel driveway.
Yeah,
this one's rough.
Yeah, so the one I got is 235, but mine's new in box though. But it was supposedly bought from a gift from Brian Benini.
Well, so let's say we sent them 15, then maybe there was 13 on the team, and they may have had a couple extras or something.
It's possible. Again, I can't substantiate if it was actually a team gun or not, because it wasn't played with at all.
So Bob, just to counter you,
okay.
so this lava adrenaline LED,
gorgeous.
Is I think his name's Kevin Fillers of Bad Company. But in your defense, it was his gun before he got on Bad Company.
Gotcha. So he wasn't tearing it up on the field with that. He was using spiders. So
right. he had to pay for this, but then on Bad Company, he was like, you could just abuse everything.
Well, exactly. See, that's the difference. See, the Ironmen didn't pay for their guns, so they just used them as cheese graters.
Yeah, thrash them.
We've had some legit pros that weren't legit pros back then that paid for their guns. I've talked before, Tim Montresor, one of his first ever really nice guns was our Black Marble LCD. He's told the story online in the past. He mowed grass, to raise money for like a year. And then when he finally got it, he didn't have any money left to play. So he had to sell it like almost right away. He didn't get to keep it because it was dead broke and he couldn't afford to ever play. So he had to dump it. So yeah, like
when you were transitioning from
Black Marble, that's not the gun, I don't think.
When you were transitioning from LED to LCD, how soon in that process did you guys get your own LCD? LCD. There
was a lot of downtime. So and that's the problem. Like so, we worked on the Shocker for 15 months. I know we worked on the LED for longer than that because we really were just starting out. But I know we tried to go as fast as we could. But I would say there was a significant down. I mean, there were a lot of guns out by then. Everybody. Well, as an example, Max from GZ, or Alex, the guy that said make the feather, he was on his third leopard cheetah print. Because they always ran those. The leopard. Those Swedes did. So they'd been out for a long time. People were waiting, and we were like we always are very late. That's one of our trademarks. Everybody's waiting long for their guns, but because we just want to make sure they're right. But I would say months and months, maybe 8 to 10 months, and we were trying to go as fast as we could too. We were really trying to go fast.
James, what were your you and Chad's parents? What were they thinking when you guys were like 20, 21 years old, saying, "Hey, we're gonna produce like 300 adrenaline LCDs, and we need some money."
I mean, actually we went to the bank. We were adults, right? I mean, you're 20-year-old, you're an adult, and we had the track record with the LEDs. So the LEDs, we started with 10, and that was like our initial investment. Like I think everybody pitched in $2,000, and the pre-sales did the rest. So we got by with I think $10,000 initially. Everybody put in 2. There was 5 of us, and that got us going. But we went to the bank for the LCD money, and we had the track record with the LEDs, and I can't believe they lit a bunch of 20-year-olds money. But the second year, the year that GZ was playing, we did like $1.2 million. So, and that's 20 years ago. That's 20 years ago, almost exactly. That's a lot for a bunch of 20-year-olds, and we're like, what we were like. We're like, let's go to play in Toulouse, France, and let's do. We did all the stuff that a bunch of 20-year-old kids would do if you just gave them a huge budget and paintball was involved. Like, oh, let's. We ran the next year. We ran an amateur A and amateur B team, pretty much fully sponsored. So we had 25 people on the roster. So we spent a lot of that back into the sport. But that's that's probably what a lot of people do at our age that just love paintball. I got to see every state and travel, play for free. So I don't have any regrets of it, but we blew a lot. We blew a lot of it back into the sport. So, and I'll tell you this though. So, it's been talked about a little bit on the owners group, but so our first facility was like so Chad's family is into fruit and vegetables. Like they're pretty big fruit and vegetable. They do just like they'll sell to restaurants and like smaller grocery stores that are smaller than like Walmart and things. And so they had this huge cooler by their house that they didn't use anymore. It was a monster. And it was like a walk-in cooler that they'd turned off. So it was like, it was normal temperature. And we ran adrenaline out of that for like 5 years. So we were actually in like this cooler that, big door like you see in movies where you can lock people in and put the pin in it. Like that's what we worked with. Like there was no windows, obviously. And I remember some team like said, we want to come from Indiana and see your facility and like pay you to train us and get certified. And we're like, like, cause you called back then, like Kenneth would call and then we'd have like the fancy phone system, like, oh, please hold for tech support, and I'm like, okay. And like Chad, Kenneth's on the phone. They're like, you're being routed to tech support. And he's like right here, he's like right beside me. It's like, this is tech support, like we had the impression of being a pretty big, good sized company, but it's just like 4 guys around a table in this cooler. And these guys drove like 10 hours. I can't remember who it is. They're on the forum. They'll probably talk because somebody actually showed the receipt where they got the certification, like the receipt where they paid us. And it said tech training. What I'm talking about? They showed it maybe a year ago or so.
Yeah, I remember.
They came and like, because they talked about the cooler and that's what they were talking about. Like, it was, I mean, I show my adrenaline runs right now off of, my floor, we do the way we do it. We don't make enough money to support, a big facility and payroll. So it is what it is. But I tried to talk those guys out of coming. I really tried. And they showed up and I know they were like, hey, but once they got over it, we trained them and we really took them through and they bought a tech kit, like a with the gauges and everything to test the LPRs. And we hooked them up with a bunch of tech tools. And because Chad had a good set. I mean, for the longest time, WDP would expect Chad and Chris to work all the major events, and they would, and they had a pretty good relationship there. And I talked to Trevor today a little bit about Cobra, and I don't mean any offense to anyone that's out there now, but we viewed them as like our last real competitor in that they're the last company that did things the way Adrenaline does, now, and back then, now, like we'll spend a year on a gun. Like if we want to do a new project, it'll take a long time, and we'll spend a long time on it. And there won't be money, if we worked on the shocker for 15 months and we sold them for 15 months. So you have 30 months and 400 guns. Well, someone like HK can sell 400 guns in 30 days. And I'm not saying that's wrong. That's the right way. That's the smart way. That's the right business model. And that's why there is no more Cobras or a really adrenaline. I'm working out of my house. I mean, it's not like a legit adrenaline anymore, and because it doesn't make financial sense. You can't spend 3 years selling 400 guns. It just doesn't work. But they did it the way we did it. And we had a great rivalry. They weren't around with the LEDs, but when the LCDs came out,
they did. I mean, when they have a couple.
They did do LED, like only 25 of them though.
Okay.
Christian, you
Well,
know,
they must just be getting on the scene because like we weren't worried about them then. But when the LCD
yeah, they
came
weren't
out,
on your radar by then.
yeah, they weren't on our radar. But then the LCD came out. We're like, oh, this is legit. Like we took it apart. You know, we found one somewhere. You know, we were at a tournament and we're like, this guy knows what he's doing. And then he was a great tech. You know, like I said, him and Chad would be side by side. And the first time that happened, we were kind of like Coke and Pepsi. You know, we're like, you know, screw those guys. You know, we never met them. You know, and they're like, oh, we're trying to stop between you and Cobra. You know, and what can you tell us against them? And then we'd be like, we got that all the time. Someone would call in. And we'd be like, oh, ours is tons better. You know, we didn't know those guys. The first event we worked with him, we were like, this is a great dude. You know, he was a cool guy. So we didn't talk to him during the year, obviously, but we'd see him at the major events when, you know, Chad would work with them. And he was super nice always to us. And he had a good product. And probably the reason he's not around now is, like I said, it's not the way nobody makes a lot of money in paintball, as we can see from, you know, GI Sports' bankruptcy filing, and they're the biggest dog in town. But the way we tried,
but that was also the tail end of, right at that was the cusp of every gun was kind of like handmade or some sort of like customized, you know, shade, you know, mechanic or garage tech type of stuff. And right as the Angels, that was like, you can't mass produce that.
Well, and the other problem with that's a good segue is some of our problems with WDP started when they started doing what we were doing. Like if you look at now, someone makes a gun, they make one gun, and and you're not competing against, like, we never competed against Shocker on our Shocker. They have a XLS and a CVO, and that's it. They don't make this version and that version. But WDP was one of our number one competitors, and they'd be like, call up like, hey, you want 200 guns? Like, I don't know. What are you getting ready to come out with? You know, and we brought back the single trigger after they quit making it. I special ordered maybe like 50 single trigger frames or something like that. They wouldn't make them. And I said, you still have the technology to make it? And they said,
for the LCD?
Yeah, for the LCD. It did not exist. Okay. So I was like, we want to make single triggers. It'd be our thing. And he's like, we have to order at least a blah, 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 100. And I was like, okay, we'll do it. Because we got some in black to sell. And they sold out. I was like, hey, I want another 100. And he's like, okay, we'll see. And next thing you know, they had them. Like they were mass producing them. I'm like, you didn't want to do this, you know? So there was a
Trevor's commented about that on the Fly. That was basically like the Fly is like a pretty damn copy of the Featherlight.
Yeah, no one ever did that. We did it, and then they came out with not just the base LCD, but they had the Fly. Like you don't have to do that. Like right now, you know, Shocker wouldn't do that to me. That was our you know, like it really upset us. You know, like when you feel like you're competing against someone that's way bigger than when you compete against your supplier. That's a bad thing.
Yeah. By the way, I think Kenneth Todd is still on hold on your Adrenaline Tech line if you want to answer that.
Right.
From 1999.
I mean, when he was like I said, 17, so he was calling like really.
It was once a week at least.
At least once a week.
He has 97 messages in your inbox.
He's still honoring his lifetime warranty.
That's right.
Right. It was funny though, because like I would know his voice though. I mean, we like, oh, it's Kenneth. Hey, I mean, like I would just say, Chad, it's Kenneth. You know, like we knew him.
First name.
Funny.
It was funny when he reached out when we made the Shocker. He's like, "Do you remember me?" I was like, "Bub, we still talk about you. We remember you."
That's right, man. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. You know what I'm saying?
You did, yeah. And you got to know us. Like we're like, hey, customer.
I will say that is how Kenneth squeaked out. Before I started selling some of my collection, he was one of the first ones to squeak out an Adrenaline off me doing that. It was like, I feel like you had a timer set for like once a week. You would me, and I'd be like, oh, dude, I don't know. But without fingers, getting back to like the industry on customization, and this is kind of just a question for everyone because I don't know all the different guns that are coming out and all the different technologies, but what guns nowadays can you buy that are private label that come in gloss with different options? Are there caulkers that you can do that with?
So I will say, I always kind of forget about caulkers, right? But Free Flow works with aesthetic, and you can get Free Flow caulkers in gloss. You can get whatever you want from Tyler. So that's I don't know if Simon does gloss on the.
I was
I
gonna
think
say
in Inception, yeah.
So
yeah, I think
Copper
he has
guys,
some Emacs in gloss. But besides that, is there anyone else that does kind of like?
people that make cockers, there's no one. Everyone is dust, and they tried to make it sound like, when they stopped doing gloss, like Trevor, you said that before, like it was the way they saved money and made it sound like you're getting something for it is like everything's dust
Bright
now.
Jip.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, it's a soapbox that I get on from every now and then. But
well, I was gonna say it's we're going back to anodizing, of course, and everything like that. It's like kind of a mantra of Planet Eclipse that they don't even really produce polished guns because they view it as a quality control concern.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's what Trevor said. There's always some line, right?
Yeah,
but I can
yeah,
tell you,
but-
I'll just tell you real numbers. Like it's 3 figures for me to polish a shocker and $5 to dust it.
Exactly.
So run that out times. What's that? If you just did 400, is that 40 grand? I don't know. So more than 40, 50 grand is what would be the difference to me. If we only did dust and we made almost nothing on this run, I would have at least 50 grand. That'd be the difference. And again, like I said, I'm not bashing these companies because I don't have payroll. I don't have a facility. We're not making much, so it's sad. So I understand these guys that have real employees and real overhead. They have to do what they have to do. Again, I'm not bashing, but I'm also, that's why I say I view Cobra as the last guys that really pushed us for the way we do it, because I'm not bashing those guys and they're the better business model, but they can't say they're true custom like us. Cause I feel like, especially if you take the Cocker guys out, those guys are still doing some great stuff. But if you take those guys out of it, I feel like it's just us.
Well, even
if you
with the Cocker stuff, it's a lot of it is still these days. You take the free flows and you take the even the stuff that Inception does. You're still almost getting like a one size fits all marker, even though you're getting you might be getting the custom ammo and stuff like that, but the rest of the build is really pretty much stock.
Well, and I can tell you, it's a pain. Like, I'm trying to think if any of you guys like requested anything crazy, but like I send a list off to like Rob or Steven or Outlaw, and they're like, you got to be kidding me. Because somebody will this guy will want a barrel from Infamous, and this guy wants a trigger shoe, and this guy wants matching ASAs so he can run on both frames, and this guy, and I give him, I have to acquire some of this stuff. I have to buy the barrel from Infamous, and I got to buy the trigger shoe from wherever it came from. Inception made the trigger shoe, I think. So all these guys are sending this stuff in. I'm sending in pictures, like to match, like this is what the guy wants. And sometimes they kill it and sometimes they're off, and we just have one that it didn't really look like the picture and the guy wasn't super pumped about it, and I said, look, I didn't anodize this. We'll try to help you out however we can. Maybe Will can raffle it. And he's like, no, I'm going to keep this gun. It's my gun, but it didn't turn out like the picture. And I said, I agree. It didn't. But I send this huge list of spreadsheet, like this gun 36 gets, this barrel tip, this, this one gets only low rise, this one gets only high rise. And every one of them messed it up at some point. Like I would get only low and not only high. And I have to call the guy like, well, Kenneth got a candy that the guy ordered only low, right? And you wanted the mid. So he didn't mess it up. But when that guy backed out, they didn't have the mid. So it's a headache to do that. And again, I can't blame people for not wanting to do that because it takes forever just to put it all together when I send it out and then hope that they don't mess it up.
Yeah,
So
a lot of different puzzle pieces to put together.
With that said, going forward, do you think you're going to continue on with the fully like made to order gun, or do you think you're going to get away from that and kind of become more in line with the industry, just saying this is what you get and that's it?
I think if we do another project, and we had a meeting in September, and my wife does not want us to do another project. If she's watching this now, I can tell you, she wants the floors back. You've seen pictures and videos, like, it's taken over the house. We don't have a cooler next to our house. So this is the cooler this time. And so her vote was not, but, luckily for me, because I wanted to, she caved. And I don't want to say she lost the vote because I wouldn't have done it if she really wasn't somewhat supportive of it. But we are going to do another project. And we did talk about, like maybe instead of doing what you're saying, because that's not adrenaline. We're not going to do that. Right. And we're not out to make a buck. So if we were out to make a buck, we would have to. That's what I'm saying. I'm not blaming those guys. That's how you can try to try to kick it out and make some money and not have forever. I have an hour in every case I made, plus the cost. We spent 20 grand on cases, and I had an hour lasering every case. Like, no one would ever say, yes, we're going to spend 4,000 hours lasering cases, or 400 hours lasering cases. But what we did do is say, if we ever did another one, maybe we could do like some quick ship versions. Like, let's say we do 400 guns of XYZ. Maybe do 100 kind of these 6 patterns or these 7 patterns, quick ship, and then everything else is just full custom. Because some guys don't want to wait.
Right.
We've thought about that. And that's something we've considered, is some version to where, and because we have guys call up that aren't used to. Look, you guys are all used to this process, right? I mean, Kenneth called forever because he had to wait forever. I have guys calling like, what do you got? Give me something. What do you got in stock? I'm like, well, that's not how it works. You got to tell me what you want. I'll make it. And how long will that take? Well, like, I don't know, 4 months or so. He's like, what are you, crazy? No, and hangs up, So the people that aren't used to that process, that just want to get their hands on one, we talked about getting one that it's really our gun, but just picking a color and having it, like.
I mean, isn't that what you did with the LCD? I mean, you had some Mexican camos and the steel blue and the GZ red. I mean, did you have some of those made ahead of time so that
we had some GZ red made because they were so daggone, only because they were so popular. So let's say we have 12 ordered, we'd send like 20 to peers. And then sometimes we would have like, by the time they were in, we'd have 6 in stock. It wasn't, and we've done that now, right? Well, I would say to Outlaw, hey, run me 6 Galaxies. I got 4 ordered and they're popular and we're going to sell 2 more.
Yeah.
We've done that, but we've never tried to have one like, hey, our intention is to have this in stock right off the bat, and we wouldn't do that in a large scale just because that's not us. We got to be careful not to veer off of what we are, or because so many people trust blindly, like we had pre-sold, I think 70 shockers before he released them. That's just blind trust, like no pictures, no mods, nothing listed, so I like the pressure because it makes us think, okay, we can't let these guys down, so the first time we phone that in, we'll lose it. Maybe we get away with one gun, we phone it in, we get away with it once and that's it, so we're aware of that, and we're not gonna, and we kind of like it, right? Like, why do we do it if we don't make money? We like it because I can say, in 98, I had the best gun on planet Earth. In my opinion, we made the best gun on planet Earth. And then 2000, I think we had the best gun on planet Earth, So we like, I guess the ego thing of it, we spent a lot of effort into it, and it's cool seeing it come to fruition, that's what I think.
Bet. Yeah, for us too.
And actually, you kind of did, I think it was some gloss black and dust black of the adrenaline shockers. Were those to kind of fill some quick orders for people to have a little bit?
So those were actually anodized in Asia, and the price was so much different, so much more affordable to have an anodized over there. So it's, it's not the same quality you're going to get from the other regular anodizers we use, but they were so cheap, and we said, yes, we'll take some of those. So we got 40 in of the 400. So about 10% were dust black, and those were anodized. They came to us, well, in dust black. So we did not trust them to be polished over there. I mean, polishing, is, you guys know as well as anyone, and maybe that's why these guys say it's a quality control issue, because they're not using the guys that are charging. Like, I tell these manufacturers what I pay this person or that person, and they lose it. Like, they're like, what? And I know what they're paying in Asia because I know what we paid for dust black. So they absolutely flip out. So I understand what their polishing would look like if they went that route. You know what I mean? When we're spending big bucks, I get a deal from someone like Steven because I'm sending him, 100 guns versus Trevor sends him 3 or something, but it's still a lot. And, we tell other people what we spend, and they're like, oh my gosh. So that's another reason you're probably not seeing it, is because if I wherever in Asia they're doing the dust black, if I had them do a polish job, I don't think it would look like, the mirror that we're seeing on some of these others.
Yep.
So tell us about the Adrenaline Impulse. I'm gonna so this is the origin story. The Angels, I think we'll do another Impulse story. These guys don't know much about impulses, no offense, I'm gonna have the
Impulse.
Right. I'm gonna have the impulse guys on because I don't want to shortchange those guys. There's the impulse experts out there too. So we'll have we'll have those guys on a different time and talk about that and some of the crazy things we did. You know, his first 5-axis gun. We've talked about being proud of that because that was radical. You know, that milling.
You guys changed a whole bunch for that gun too.
That's the most radical we've ever. I mean, the lower you start on a base gun, the more you have to do. Like, you know, we want our guns to compete with the best in the world, and that was just a lower starting point. So there's so much more to do. You know, like the Angel, you could do a little bit, and it was pretty damn good right out of the box. You know, the Impulse needed some work. So, I mean, we had the whole bottom half of that gun was our parts. I mean, the grip frame was ours. The tray was ours. We actually made a one-piece design that they didn't have. You know, we put I'll talk about it more on the Impulse show, but we had a thing called the GP valve, and that was actually named after a guy that worked at Smart Parts, Glenn Perry, who someone told me he works at NASA now. So it's like a Mark Rober kind of guy. Like he was brilliant, and I'll never forget. So we'll talk about the split from WDP a little bit. So Owen calls up. You know, we were getting mad and more mad and more mad, and they were competing against us and coming out with little products that we were coming out with, and then like they would pay to have Rocky fly over and come to the factory and hang out. And maybe we just weren't fun to hang out with, you know, but we wanted to go over to Birmingham and like see the factory, you know, and we were doing a lot of volume, maybe not as much as Warped, but a lot. And so we fell a little shortchanged there, and just it kind of added up, and we decided to do another gun. We were going to still do the Angel, like keep going. There would be a 5 right now, you know. We were still going to do another one. What we're going to do an Impulse 2. We thought about spreading out, and that was our thought. Because Adam had expressed like, hey, would you like to do an Impulse? We think you could do good things with it. And we thought, yeah, let's spread our wings and do something else. Planet had already spread its wings and was doing, other companies were doing other stuff. So we told Owen that, and he said, he came back the next day. He's like, no way, we're not going to allow it. If you do that, you're cut off. And I guess they thought because we only made Angel parts, we would like, okay, you know, fold into and you know, cave into that. So they would not allow it. So like, we started immediately, you know, trying to get plans whether we're going to do the Impulse and make decisions. And he called like 3 days later, you know, like, what kind of order you want? Do you want, you know, 200 guns or whatever? We said, no, we're not buying anything ever again. You know, we're switching. Because in the meantime, Adam and Billy had said, well, come up to, you know, Lola Hannah where they're at, and like, let's hang out and show you around. And they like, oh man, they wined and dined us. They took us to this restaurant, which I've later found out is like where they seal the deal with everyone. It's where they took Dynasty when they did the Dynasty deal. And like, it's just amazing Italian place. And they, I wonder how many people have like, you know, got wine and dined there, you know, like I know they told us later they did the Dynasty deal there, but they just made us feel like we wanted to feel. They made us feel good. And so that's what led us to, you know, walk away from WDP. But once we got in there, it was like, oh, we had a lot of work to do. So we went up there, we met with Hans and Billy and this Glenn guy, the kind of the lead 3 engineers. And we basically said, and I'll talk more about this in the Impulse show, but, you know, do you guys have any ideas? And when Billy left, I said, is there anything you guys wanted to do that they won't let you for money? Like Adam won't let you, or Billy's offended by or whatever. And this Glenn guy's like, yeah, this thing needs a check valve. And I've designed it and they won't let me do it. Here it is. And I said, can we have this? And he's like, sure. And so we called it the GP valve. It was his design. You know, we didn't even come up with it, but they wouldn't let him do it because of cost. And it was a game changer for that gun. It's one of the many things we did. And literally, I don't know if they're joking or not, but I think Tim told me this about a year and a half ago that he works for NASA. So I think it's true, you know, but he was brilliant. And so that's kind of how, you know, we went along that way. But the reason that we changed so much of that, it was a lower starting point, you know. I'm not taking anything away from it. It had Vision Eyes, which was radical at that time. That was the first major platform with Vision Eyes, which, you know, we fired fast. And so we were always frustrated with, you know, chops. Even with the high rise, we would chop. And that was right before what's it called, guys? The
Eggolution.
Egg, yeah. So because that was like a wannabe force fed, right? Like, you know, that was right before that. So at the time when we switched, it was just Revolutions, you know. But then when we switched, we got.
What?
Oh, I thought somebody said.
Sorry,
something.
no, go ahead.
We switched, though, we got the Eggolutions or whatever they're called, which was, you know, a horrible year for equipment. We also that year had we were a big JT team, and we had the mask with the ears that you could spin. Do you guys remember those? Yeah.
The Proteus.
What a horrible year for equipment that was. I mean, some good ideas, but, you know, and the Eggolution was a good starting point, I guess, for what we have today. But that was a horrible piece of equipment too.
Yeah.
Hey, James, I have a question. Where do you, without, letting the cat out of the bag or giving us too many teasers, what do you think the future of adrenaline is?
Well, we're going to do at least another project. I don't know after that. I will say that we're going to talk about that project 2 Fridays from now, November 6th. So there'll be a live show on here, the paintcast, and we're going to talk about it, everything we're doing, where we're at, what our plans are for that project. After that, who knows? No one does adrenaline because there's 4 of us that own adrenaline, and my wife helps. She's not one of those 4. She helps a ton. But there's 4 actual owners, and they all have other careers. And, no one says I'm walking away from construction to run adrenaline, so it's just a matter. Each time we'll have to, like we did in September, vote and say, hey, what do we want to do? Because it's a big project. I mean, it's a lot of time and effort, and we're obsessive. So like with the project we're thinking about now, I lay in bed at night, like thinking of crap, and like, so like on the shocker, we probably had 40, 50 ideas that just, we used 20 of them. And some of them were just stupid, but there's no bad ideas, like they always say that in school. So we would come up with so many ideas, and like some we would try, some we would like laugh at the guy because we all know each other for, 30 years. We're like, you're dumbass, we're not doing that. But some of them we would try and they not work. And the others we try and like, oh yeah, this is legit. We're going to do this. And some stuff,
And are these the same guys? Are these the same guys that you're with now that you started off with?
Yeah. So there was
Primarily
5 of us in the beginning. One of the main 5 passed away of a drug overdose about 2 years ago, I think, right around this time of year, actually. I think it's 2 years ago. So of the original, and one of them walked away from paintball, and we bought out in the LCD days. He was taking over the machine shop, the machinist, and we had already started machining stuff. I think we did the LCDs. We did the LCDs, but we're using CP more and more because they could do stuff so much more cost effective. And he basically said, look, we'll run whatever you want us to run, but I'll kind of want to get out of it. I don't want to play anymore. Most of us did the stuff to play. Like that's what we all started. We wanted the gear for ourselves. We wanted to be the only team with that stuff. So he walked away, and it left 4 of us. One of those guys passed away. But 3 of those guys, the remaining guys, are in adrenaline now. And then we've added a teammate for the last 20 some years. I actually offered it the whole team. At least the guys that go back, the 20-year guys. Who wants to be part of this project? We're going to make a shocker. We'd already gotten the Patrick Freeberg actually has one of them. We got the black ones with the logo on it, and he has one of those to test them. We were trying prototype stuff, and we said, okay, this is legit. We can make this. We've got a lot of ideas, and some of the ideas, like we played an event, and the Adcocks, who play on the Saber Wolves, Caleb and Jacob, played with us, and one of them, I can't remember what it was, like dove into a bunker and his safety engaged, and he's like screaming next to me, like, who puts a safety on a tournament gun? Like, this is so stupid, like screaming. And so we walk and feel like, okay, well, that's a good idea. Let's get rid of the safety. But then the legal part says we can't just eliminate it. Like somebody's going to, sue us for when an eye gets shot out. So that's what led us to revive the safety to where it's really hard to use, right? We've changed it completely.
That safety is great.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's harder to use, and people complain sometimes, but that's really that's
it's supposed to be hard to engage.
Yeah. Started with. At least we left it on, right?
Yeah.
But 3 of the guys are involved, and then of all the guys, there was like 6 or 7 originally, but people slowly kind of, when it's time to cough up a significant amount of money, because you're doing 400 guns, you don't just like pay when you're done. Like there's a significant upfront investment. I had to personally get a loan. I don't know how everybody else came up with their money, but it was time to go to the bank. Of our group, only 1 new guy came in, so there's 4 of us now.
So what you're saying is the weak link is your wife, and we need to send her flowers and everything else to make sure that we continue the adrenaline dream, right?
Maybe she wants her floor back, I think.
Storage building, like a place you can securely lock.
That's not the living
room.
Yeah,
a cooler.
We're gonna need to post that address. That way we can get flowers just like surplus supplied in there
on a weekly. Yeah.
So what we'll do to answer your question is, after this next project, again, we'll talk about that in 2 weeks. When it's winding down, we'll say, hey, do we want to walk away? And because really to do another project is any money we ever would have to touch goes back to buying more. So we never get anything out until we actually walk away, So I don't know what we'll decide. It's and it's got to be something we could bring something to the table. Like we're not going to do a gun, and we've talked about this and this project and others in the past. We're not going to do a gun unless we can bring something to the table. We've got to be able to make significant changes. That's just the adrenaline. We're not going to do million nano. And again, I'm not bashing those companies that do million nano. They kill it. They make money. We don't. But that's our thing. We got to have significant stuff under the hood.
So you're saying you're not gonna revisit the AutoMag platform? Is that what I'm hearing?
Right?
Oh,
Right. They love the AutoMag. I hated it. That's why I was always looking at the stuff. I had a P&P Super Cocker. It's the only cocker I've ever touched. I had it for like 2 weeks. No offense to Caesar, and sold it. Like, this is junk. I couldn't work it. I couldn't time it. I couldn't do anything. I was the only guy on the team that ever really had a cocker. Now we have a cocker kind of guru. And some people think we may do it a cocker because we have a really good cocker tech on our team. But I know I can't touch a cocker. Like I said, I had one for 2 weeks literally and sold it. But I hated my AutoMag. And I had a black box. I've talked to, I go up to Smart Part or, Shocker Paintball all the time. And you were around back then, but maybe you didn't have. Did you have one, Bob? Did anybody have a black box? You know what I'm
with a
talking about?
shoebox?
Yeah. Oh no.
Magic box.
They had
Magic box.
Magic box.
a magic box.
It would bypass the part of the regulator on the AutoMag, and it was supposed to help with CO2 and flow and everything like that. It was a side expansion chamber.
Yes, if you took the box off, which is what we did immediately, because we started in '87 and we had PGPs, and we immediately were making plumbing PVC pipe, to hold 20 rounds. We always have been the guys tinkering, and so we took that thing apart immediately. Chad did first thing. He took it apart. He's like, "This is like a screw in this out of a gun." Like the whole rest of the box was empty, and I give those guys a hard time about that, and they're defensive about it. They're like, "That thing worked. It was amazing." I just talked to Hans about it a month ago. He's like, "That thing worked. It was amazing." I said,
At least 40 FPS increase.
Right. I said, I think it's in the wrong part of the valve. I think it's in the wrong spot where it needs to be.
It worked on their sales.
Right. We all bought them.
Yeah, actually, it's funny you mentioned that, James, because my personal AutoMag experience actually lasted less than 24 hours. I tried to shoot pro ball with it, which I'm sure you guys remember. Pro ball was like shooting marbles.
Right. I do remember pro ball.
And, I'm shooting it with a Revolution, not even shooting fast, and the thing is chopping paint. I'm like, if it's chopping pro ball, I have no chance. I literally, within 24 hours, traded it in for an autococker that I could actually get the paint to come out of the barrel. But it's funny, all of these mods and everything like that, kind of like what you guys do, comes out of the necessity of just trying to get paint out of the barrel.
Right.
That's all you're trying to do.
Well, and that's what we do. That's exactly how we find it. We play with them and we talk to people that have a lot of gun time on them and say, what would you like to see different? I think it was one of the All-Americans who had the CVOs way before us. We got them pretty early, but they had them before us. And one of them said, I hate the screw valve. I wish I had like the Lux lever style ASA. And I thought, okay, I like that. Let's do that. So that was on the list. But then we found out later we had to redo the whole frame to make that work, because the air holes didn't line up. But, most of the things we do is from us figuring out what we wish it had and then talking to people that we trust, like, hey, what do you wish was different? And then we just make notes and kind of like the timer frame. One of the guys on the company, Jason, one of the original founders, he hated his wristwatch, got hit in a few times. He's like, we need to build one in the gun. And so our first idea was like, very the adrenaline redneck style cooler. We were gonna get a small like lady style wristwatch that was smaller than the back cap and like secure it somehow like mechanically to the back cap. So it was really just like a wristwatch with the band cut off like right in the back. It'd be facing you, but it was like every implementation was just like it looked like you Velcroed a watch and cut the bands off, and that was it. It just did not look finished.
Do any other mech workers have a timer in them?
I don't think so, no, because I'm almost positive because they tore ours down at if you've seen the video with Aaron Rios that has like 400,000 views, which is crazy. Yep. After that video, we had to tear it down for the NXL. They made us tear it down in front of them, like take it all apart and see, because the timer, that really threw them off. And I told him, I said, look, we're going to tear this down for you. This is like, I come from a racing family, and like when you tear down a race car and it passes, that's like, you thought we were cheating and we weren't. So I said, look, we're going to tear this down for you, but I'm going to tell the world you made us tear it down because I love it. I'm going to tear it down. I'm going to show you it's like a basically a Garmin stuck in with a O-ring and a way we machined it, and everything else is just us, And so we did, and it was awesome, because there was another team there that was complaining, and so that was a good time,
Yeah.
But no, I don't think there is anything like that.
That's crazy. I can't believe nobody else has come up with one.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it was pretty hard. Like, we've been doing, stuff from, suppliers, let's say like Alibaba type stuff since the beginning, and like we sourced our cases, it took a long time to find the right supplier and get them in. And that's why they were late to people. And I spent a long time trying to find timer manufacturers that could work. It had to be something you could touch with the face of the timer. So we didn't have to have, unless you designed a grip, like the LCD, how it had the buttons separate from it, or no, the LED had the buttons separate. Yeah. Like that. Yeah. The 3 buttons.
LCD.
Yeah. So we tried to have something that was all in one, one component. So we didn't have to radically redo the frame. And it was difficult. So, but we finally found, the perfect device. It just was stupid expensive. That Garmin, if you buy that Garmin on Amazon, it's like $80, so we got a deal on it. We signed up I'm actually a Garmin dealer. Like I can get you a GPS or a or whatever
Nice.
they sell. I don't know what they have, but stuff they sell, I can get you wholesale. I'll hook you up. But we only buy one product from them, and we buy a crap load of them, so they like us, but we're not the normal Garmin dealer, but we still paid a stupid amount for them.
Well, here, since we're down on memory lane, you can probably tell us more about this gun than any of the rest of us can. But I mean, what do you think? What are your memories of shooting this?
Well, like I said, that was the 98 year when we just like utterly dominated. So picture us having, 5 of them. Even then, people are starting to get the gun that Trevor has, like just some people, like the baller teams would have an Angel, they'd be like, oh, here's this guy's. We'd look at them like before the event, like these guys got 4 out of mags and 1 Angel. Okay. Like we'd size everybody up because back then, we just picture now going to a field with 2 Angels on a team versus all auto mags or all auto cockers, you know what I mean? And then picture 5, that's what it was like then. And it was just a awesome year because it was an unfair advantage. I mean, we were just running through teams. And I'm stupid for selling that gun, like when you're a kid. And I didn't sell it to you, right?
No,
but I got a great amount for that gun. I threw a jersey in with it. It was big bucks.
Yeah, I have the jersey.
Yeah. Okay. So you got the whole kit that he got.
Yeah.
And so he got a certificate of authenticity. I just kind of worked one up, but we signed it and all that. I don't know if you got that or not from him, but
I didn't get that. No.
Okay. But when you're a kid, again, you're 20 years old and somebody's offering some stupid amount, and probably by then I knew that the LCD was coming, or it was already being made. I'm like, well, I'm not going to play with this again. Let's take it. And I so regretted that. And then I did.
So you went right from this to the LCD.
Correct. Yeah.
Did you go single like this one?
Yeah, but so there's been such a big debate about what we shot because we had I don't know. Does anybody? I wish I knew. I remember we had a blue splash team gun, and then an LCD
like that feather that Trevor has, right?
Probably, yeah. Like it kind of looks like the Eclipse Speedy Blue or Electric Blue, whatever they call it. And then we also had, I feel like we also had a black marble or gray marble. Like I feel like we ran through 2 sets, but I know we switched team collars. During the process, I don't know why there's 2 sets of team guns, but the serial numbers would tell if the battery never killed the board. I had serial number 1 on the LCD, and Chad had serial number 2, and we flipped it because that's serial number 2, and Chad had serial number 1 on the LED. So when the LCDs came around, it was my turn to have 1. So whoever has Chad's has serial number 1 on the LED. But,
that's a whole nother story.
Oh man, that's a long, deep rabbit hole. Didn't carry McClure on Christian? Jesus.
Right. We don't have enough time for that one.
No.
But have you guys located that guy then? Have you found the gun?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's in pieces. It's kind of a Franken gun at this point.
I got you.
James, I hear there is one Adrenaline Angel LED that was never finished that's getting finished within the next month.
You keep talking. I'm not going to talk. You talk about it.
I
don't know what to say.
I'll just leave it at that.
Was it the Mountain Dew? That one was never assembled,
I
right?
think I want you to engrave final as the serial number 20 years later.
I've been instructed not to talk about it, but if you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it.
No, it's all right.
There is
Dang.
So if I had a clip, like we have these these things I can put up. If I had a thing up, it would be like the Yoda, like there is another. There is another Skywalker. I would put one up. There is another. There's one more. So we'll see. It may be something some middle of next year or something like that. Hopefully sooner. But that's
very cool.
Yeah. Well, we're going in an hour and a half. It's way longer than my first show, but this is fun. Anyone has any questions or anything, either here or in the chat, we'll try to, answer them. Appreciate everybody tuning in.
I'd love an adrenaline cocker.
I probably wouldn't shoot it. Like if we get I don't know if there's a cocker sponsorship, right? We're about to support ourselves, right? But I would have to be like the exception. Just like when we sponsor GZ, Chris Cole shoots the cocker. He's like the carve out guy, because he won't shoot anything but a cocker.
The black sheep, right?
Yeah, right. I cannot work one, dude. I touch it and it just falls apart. Like it's just starts leaking automatically.
What I do?
But we do have a guy.
Yeah, but I mean, if you got a guy that knows him, I'm sure you would find a way to put your flair on it.
Well, I would, and I would just every match just hand him it and say, hey, give it to me right before the point again, and do whatever you do, and give it back. But
I had to say, James, you sound like my brother, because every time I tune a gun for him, he manages to still break paint in it no matter what I do. And he's the only one that does it. He's got a magic touch that he will break paint in anything that I tune perfectly.
Yeah, what's the opposite of the Midas touch?
Right. That's me on cockers.
Maybe lead.
I've never been really good on a slide trigger. That's not the only slide trigger ever. Even the first Planet Mech was kind of a slide trigger. I've just never done well on, the slide triggers. It's a rhythm thing,
So did you, and single triggers was your thing back then?
Yeah, it's funny. One of the jerseys that went with one of the guns, it says James Finger Bang Grayley, and it was not anything sexual, just the fact that I could fire when the LCDs could time you, I could get up to 16s, no problem, and that wasn't walking, that was old kind of old school fanning, like we do now.
Yeah. Wait, here's James' go-to gun. You ready for this? He's had nightmares about this in the past.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm so fast, because I grew up with that. That's the best training ever. I've told stories before. I literally used to have nightmares as a kid. So when I started playing, we were 11. All of us were 11 in 1987. And I was almost 12. And that gun, you pretty much operate it with your finger. And it's kind of hard to pull. If you haven't, it's pretty hard to intro.
Horrible.
It's hard. You can see though, his knuckles getting white. So I used to, as an 11-year-old, I'm almost two fingering it, and I'd have dreams that people would come in and bunker me and run at me, and I'm I can't pull it, But me and Jason, the guy that came up with the timer idea, we both had the Rapide, and everybody else had Splatmasters, our first round out. And I thought I was doing good with the semi-auto, but it's a solid inch and a half, something like that pull. But it's not even distance.
I think he's gonna get the fish scale out.
I was gonna say 3 inches and 77-pound pull.
Dude, Bob is on the money. I think it's it is about, so the bottom of the trigger, which is the longest, is about 3 inches and an eighth.
And like I said, it's not just that, it's the pressure. I used to have nightmares about that. I mean, picture an 11-year-old. That's what my son, he's 11 now, and he's starting into it. And I said, and he has an awesome adrenaline shocker, a really cool one. And I was like, you just don't know how lucky you have it. Plus, you're running around with Hall of Fame pros, telling you what to do. We were running around the woods trying to learn for ourselves. So,
I got a question. How much do you feel the resurgence of the mech scene played into your coming out with the shocker, the new shocker?
exclusively. You know, they were talking about on the what was one of the other podcasts? I can't remember which one. Paintball Unknown podcast, and they did the ICC special, and Russell was on with Ryan Moorhead and Sam Monville, and they talked about us coming back as a company. Only came back because of that, because so we were done. Like when we got bought out, we had a 10-year non-compete, and I've joked with Tim in the past that it could have been 50-year. I was like, F paintball, I'll sign anything you want. Like I'm never coming back anyway. We were just tired of it. So many things had ruined it for us. We were like some of the guys that just didn't do as well in the NXL as we had X-Ball as we had in 10-man. And so many elements of it we just were done with paintball for the longest time. And then I saw that Tim was doing this ICC thing, the first one, the one that Trevor went swimming at. What?
I don't know how you remember that, actually.
How can I not? So you Superman into a mud puddle.
Not exactly, but go ahead.
That's my version. I do like to exaggerate. Anyway, so I saw that Tim was doing that, and Garrett, I don't know, was he 7 at the time or something? I said, would you like to go up and see what your dad used to do? I've talked a lot about it. And he said, yeah, that'd be fun, like father-son trip. So we went up just to watch. And it was so cool to see everyone I hadn't seen. I saw, all the old guys. It was the people we used to go against in 2002 and 3. We're all there because that's who made up that event, a lot of it. So it was great. And on the drive home, I immediately started calling the guys like, look, we're playing this next year. They may not do another one. I mean, I called people I hadn't talked to in like 8 years, Ricky, who's, one of my longtime friends, but I still only talk to him a couple times a year. I called him on the way home. I'm like, look, we're doing this next event, maybe next year. Well, then Lane Wright announced the, whatever he called it, the Lana something. I don't know what he called it, but it was in December it was just right after that. And so we all had to get guns and we didn't know what to get. So we got enemies and they hooked us up. I called, Hans, I think so I called, and he hooked us up with a really sweet deal. And I know Trevor likes his enemy, but we were not, we had trouble just out of the box. We literally opened up and played with him. And that was probably a mistake because we had some problems. We had really bad problems with the first thing. We kind of got him going. And I'm like, the guys were like, we're wearing $200 paintball pants and the gun's $150, like we need better equipment. You know what I mean? So on the way home, we decided to make our own gun. Our own gun, that's not the adrenaline way, but we were like, we can do better. Again, I'm not trying to knock on them. It's a great gun for the price. It's an amazing gun. But there wasn't a mech gun that we felt, unless you could shoot a slide trigger, which we couldn't, that, we wanted a tournament grade mech gun. So we immediately, the whole, 8-hour trip home from Atlanta to Ohio, came up with ideas of what we could do starting from scratch, which is not our thing, but starting from scratch and what we would base it on, what we would do, and some technology. In fact, I actually posted on the AOG, would you guys be interested if we came back? And that was to make a gun, like our own gun. And people were like, oh yeah. So, and then Tim probably saw it and said, hey, there's a mechanical shocker coming out soon. Let me get you one. You're going to change your mind. And he did. And we were like, okay, yeah, we're not going to make our own gun. We could spend a year in R&D and not get close to this. Let's do what we do best and take this and go from there. So that's what we did. But we would not have been back if it wasn't for mechanical. We wouldn't be making anything right now. So that's what got us back, because we only made it like we did back in '97 for what we wanted for ourselves. And then we share, it's a very selfish standpoint, but we just want to, and we like it. We like tinkering with it. It's like a gearhead for a car.
Yeah.
I did find that video though of me taking the dive. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. See if I can.
This is the last time Trevor played with a cocker.
You're right. Actually, hold on.
You gotta hit it.
You gotta hit play.
I'm trying. Hold on.
There you go.
There you go.
All right.
Maybe.
There we go.
There you go.
There you go.
I mean, that's swimming, bro. That's swimming.
Dude, I came up bouncing though, man.
It was like a what to do and what not to do in the same video. Like the one guy just blew by you. The guy was like, got there 10 seconds after you and was like 5 seconds ahead of you at the end of it.
Hey, I will say this though. I think that I did inspire you, James, a little bit with all those angels down in Atlanta because I brought
Okay,
like
so I don't want to take that away from you. So let's back up. I'm not
$15,000
going to take your thunder.
angels down to Atlanta.
I am taking something away from you. It was not that. It was the ICC when we came by your team tent, the first ICC, the one you went swimming.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
had Garrett with me. And if you may not remember, but I was filming and I said, "This is what we made," and Garrett said, "Make one for me, Dad," and he actually had your Thunderstruck, and he said, "Make another one. I want one." And I got home and Jessica saw that and she's like, "That's awesome. I didn't know you guys made, my wife, she's like, I didn't know you made something that cool. I don't know what she thought we made, but you didn't appreciate that it was something nice like that." So she's like, she was like floored. Like that was legit looking. And he talked about it for like 2 weeks and she was like, "You guys should, consider that." And so then it was already in our heads, like, yeah, maybe, we should. And then after Atlanta with the enemy, and then you were in Atlanta and had the tent, where you kicked out Dearman out of your tent, like, "Get out," remember that?
So I actually had a guy, his name's Dan. I had him as my like security. And I was like, "Listen, dude, there's like over 15 grand worth of guns in this tent. I need you to just stand outside and make sure no one else except James and I think it was Chad and
Jason.
And Jason. Don't let anyone else in." I remember Rocky and there was like 3 or 4 other guys that tried to come in and this guy was like, "No, get out, get out, get out."
Yeah.
I was like,
The Dearman was playing with us though. He was on the team and I told him, I said, "Come over, we're going." So like he starts to come in the tent and this guy's like bouncing him and like, "Get out of here."
You could imagine how nervous I was though,
Yeah.
But
No, I was bored when I saw your collection there. Because it was more than what you have there now,
yeah, it was for sure. But yeah, good times.
I think that was more than 15 grand too.
Okay, it was 15 grand in that day and age, but now it's worth more. So what was that, like 2018 or yeah, I think it was 18, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
I think so. Someone posted, "Christian, your LED is still on and flashing. It's bothering them. Turn it off."
Oh, I thought I turned it off already.
Yeah, that was.
maybe you did.
Me
Oh, it's
earlier.
off.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a while back. Yeah. I couldn't see it because it was facing the screen.
Yeah, I was trying to be incognito and use the tools that we had on our screen.
Oh, okay. Oh, it was you. Okay. Oh, the private chat. That was you. All right.
So James, are you saying that your wife really liked the Thunderstruck, and as long as we make more of those, then we could just continue this trend here?
I think she was just floored that like we made something that was real. She was impressed. So
She's like, "You made this when you were how old?"
Right.
So she wasn't around for any of that.
She'd been mad, back then. If we had a real good business person around us back, like I said, we were bigger than Die back then. Like we went to the Amateur Open, he had a little booth. We had 3-table display when we unveiled these guns, and look where he's at and look where we're at. But we were 19-year-old kids and didn't know what we were doing. So
I think you were too busy monkeying around in that Angel Heaven tent.
Right. We almost did that last year, 2019 ICC. I talked with Tim and I said, I want to bring back, we're always trying to do cool stuff. And I said, we had some booth space. He said, "How much you need?" And I said, "Maybe like 30 to 30 or 40 to 40. He's like, "What the, I don't have that for you." And I said, "Well, figure it out. I want to do like a Heaven, like they used to do. And I want to have fog machines and free fruit, free water, just like they used to do it. We'll only let our people that have our guns in, or like the people we invite." And he's like, "Oh, those were nice. I love those Heavens." And he's like, "Okay, it's kind of cool. If I can get the space, maybe we'll do it." And then later on, he's like, "Look, there's no space, And I was like, "That's cool. It kind of sounds expensive anyway." So
Didn't they have like a hot tub back in the original Angel Heaven? Bob, you probably know about this.
Definitely a hot tub.
Yeah, they did. And they had the girls. The girls were there on Faceful. One of the covers of Faceful. The girls were there. I mean, it was legit. And they had the fog and the DJ nonstop, free water, free fruit. It was awesome.
Dang.
And those guys were cool sometimes. I remember that first time Jed had special shirts made for me and Jason that we went, and he had them made for us, and it had our names on. I wish I had it still, but it was pretty cool. So they handed them out to us and Cobra and Warped.
Oh, there
I don't
it
know if it
is.
was that one. I don't know if it was that one. I'm thinking the 2 girls looked a little
Yeah,
more sluttier picture. Yeah.
This is later.
They had the lock
Yeah, I
socks.
think they hired 2 strippers. That girl's probably a model.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is there any other comments here? I don't think anyone else asking any questions.
James,
Anything else you guys?
Have you kept in contact with Ged Green or John Rice or any of those guys? Or did they like
No.
fall off the earth?
Owen is still on Facebook. He's a sales rep. I saw his, because have like 2,000 friends. Every now and then you'll see like someone you're friends with that's friends with, and I have a lot of buddies that are friends with him. But we really left on horrible terms, and so immediately after that, because we immediately said like, "Oh, the Angel's not the best kind of plant. The Impulse is," because they gave us a sweet deal too for our team, and it was just, and they treated us right. So we acted like we should, we promoted the Impulse. And so it was immediately like bad blood. And really, I mean, I'd talk to him now and have a beer with him, but we just don't keep up with those guys. And I did, because for the years after that, we would just like be at events and like not look at each other, that kind of thing. It kind of ended like that.
Bob, does Ged Green and John Rice still own that field in Birmingham, UK?
As far as I know, they do, and I know that they still own some of the intellectual Angel property and stuff like that, like the Magno Val from the later generations and stuff like that. But as far as anything else paintball related and everything like that, I mean, they got out because they weren't making any money off of it, and kind of what James alluded to is the fact that some of their business practices, they thought that paintballers would be brand loyal to
no matter what
products that what products they were bringing out, and they learned the hard way. And I know a lot of the people that have seen me on the Angel Owners group and stuff like that, I hate the Angel IR3 because that's part of the downfall of Angel, was the fact that they're like, hey, let's come out with this new 90-degree grip and all these features and not put eyes on the Angel. Everybody's still going to love it. They found out the hard way that their way of doing things wasn't what everybody wanted. So, but that's why I hate the Angel IR3, because that was the one that started the downfall of everything.
I just want to say, Gary, I did like the Angel better, but if you gave me 1,000 rapides as an 11-year-old, even I had nightmares about it, I would say it was the best gun on the planet. So. But the trigger is so silky smooth. Try one today.
You need to modify. I guess that would qualify for a mech.
That's human. I mean, that's just like, I think the CO2 shot the ball, but had nothing to do. Like the human did everything else. Humans moved.
Mech/pump. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a pump and that's right. That's exactly what that is. Now Jason had that clip. That's an OG. Like I only had the one that held 20. That's a 40, right? That's
yeah. This is the extendo edition.
Yeah. You roll in style. I couldn't afford that. I just had the stock 20.
You had to get a finger cramp after shooting 40 balls with that thing.
Dude, it is like after 10 balls, it's actually like pretty strenuous, but good times.
Well,
have you guys seen somebody talks about the lawsuits? Have you guys seen the documentary where they have the affidavit and all that about WDP and the 4x4 and all that? Mm-hmm. Has anyone seen the documentary? Oh, you guys got to see that, man. Guys, you got to see that. So, Paintball Media, they made this the complete history of paintball, and it's the director's cut's like 10 hours, and I have a good interview on that talking about the Angels and kind of some of the stuff we talked about tonight. But the probably 2.5 hour version starts back in like I learned a lot talking, when they first started the survival games and, the original guys. But later on, they got into the legal stuff, and they provide an affidavit that somebody made. It was pretty incriminating. It's basically saying that they flew over John Rice and somebody else flew over to like steal the ideas. They took a gun, they took a 4x4 and took a lot of stuff from the 4x4. It was pretty incriminating. Who knows if it's true or not, because they didn't give it away, who it was, but it was a court document.
Wow.
But that's but that aside, you should watch the complete history of paintball. I'm going to plug it. I mean, it's cheap. I watched it on Venmo for super cheap. You can rent it. That's what I did, but you can buy the director's cut. In fact, if somebody buys the director's cut, I'd like to know if my whole interview made it. Because we talked for like an hour. And it was one of those things like I made like 10-second interview about Skyball. So I'm curious if what's on the history. We talked a lot about the Angels and but that it's worth watching. It's a good, even if you just rent the quick version on Venmo.
Yeah, and I think there's a part in there. I've seen some clips from a friend and everything like that. I think the first angel was actually intended to be a mechanical paintball marker.
Yes, that's what the thing says. And they went over and saw this 4x4 and came back like, we need to do this, and here's how they did it, and here's how we need to do it. And that's kind of part of the lawsuit, because an employee of WDP's, the person that wrote that affidavit, was involved in those meetings. It didn't say who it was, so kind of crazy. I mean, it's better than the 4x4, right? I mean, way better, So whatever they did, John Rice he's an anomaly. The story is actually on that video. I think that's where I saw it. Owen was telling it on that video. Oh, that's a nice 4x4. Owen's telling the story on that video where John showed up at their field. You guys would like it. You should watch just for that. He shows up at their field and like wants a gun and trades like something. I can't remember anybody's watching this, but watched it. But like he invented something and he traded it, and they're like, "This is amazing!" And like he just wanted a case of paint and like field pass or something. And they're like, whatever it was, they were like, it was some amazing event. I can't remember what it was. And then he came back like a month later and wanted to trade something. And then next thing you know, they just hired him. And he was the guy that did it. He was the main designer. Jed owned a field. Owen was a sales guy. But John Rice was, the man behind all that. He's wrong about the hammer, though.
So back to the hammer situation. I'm not trying to like bring this all back up. I would say this.
We're
So
going full circle. It's all right.
what's that, Bob?
I said we're going full circle. It's all right.
All right. So I would say this: stainless steel hammer for 98% of the population it was a good modification. The only flaw was the people that did not understand how like the breech block with like the pivot pins worked, because if they had their hammer set wrong and they were trying to close their breech block like this,
right?
If they encountered resistance, a lot of these idiots would end up like smashing their breech block shut. And with the stainless steel hammer, it puts a lot of stress on these like breech pivot pins here and here. Whereas like most people know, okay, if it's not shutting for a reason. Whereas with the what was it? Not the copper ones, but the brass one. The brass ones would actually give. So anyone that goes and smashes their breech block, it would tear apart that brass hammer before tearing apart the side of like the breech pivot pin. So in John Rice's defense, I would say that was one of the few advantages to the brass, but overall, I do think the stainless steel was better, just because.
Well, and Chad set them all up before they shipped. I mean, they could have got, I guess, out of sync, but before we shipped it, Chad said every single one was set up by hand, and dialed in and test fired.
Yeah, as long as you don't mess with it, it was like perfect, and it stayed in time, like Bob said, for a really long time. But yeah, there's always those like couple of dum-dums that mess it up.
Well, you can't idiot-proof everything.
Right.
I always thought the issue against the steel was that it would beat up the valve prematurely.
Well, but the thing is, though, with the even in the LEDs, they had it was like kind of a cadmium hardened valve stem. That valve stem couldn't even start to wear away the stainless valve body. The stem would always wear first.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that
you would never see the stem mushroom or anything like that from a stainless steel hammer either.
That's true.
It was pretty hard components.
What is pretty wild, and I probably should have brought this up at the beginning, is it's crazy to think back in like 96, 97 or whatever, that this was like the top of the line gun. And then this was like the private label. Because nowadays, when you think of,
yeah,
I mean, you guys went, I would say, like 5 steps beyond where you needed to get to in order to market a private label gun. Like all you have to do is go like 2 steps above. But this is like insanely different compared to, where like the derivation of it.
Right. That's why I think it blew Jet away when we undid that, the towels thing at the Sheridan I talked about, because they went from that to that, and he was, they were just, and it wasn't just 1 or 2 things. They were like looking at the high rise and the air assist, and they were just blown away. And so we try to do as much as we can, but you're right, now it's the starting point is so much higher. It's so much. And back then, gun can make a huge difference. So when we sponsored GZ, I really think it made a huge difference because they're playing against teams that didn't have comparable equipment. Now, at an NXL Pro level, it doesn't matter who your sponsor is; it's pretty comparable. No one's at some major disadvantage. It didn't used to be like that.
Because like if you compare, like this is a really, really nice shocker. And this is like, I'd say late 98, early 99. So this is the same time that your private label Angel came out. And this thing is just, I mean, I like it and I'm a fan of it and that's why I own it. But at the same time, it's super clunky. It's squared off. Like the grip frame screws are like just really odd looking. I don't know. It's interesting the evolution of these guns,
Did you have much back then in the LED era association with the AKA guys? Because I've got a gun of yours that was supposedly an AKA team gun that has your mods on it.
Not that I recall. I mean, I'm sure, I'm getting parts, right? They had like private label parts. Didn't they have some parts? Like we would have. They
had an adjustable LPR. They had bolts, different
trigger frame,
ASA trigger frame. I mean, I can grab it. Yeah, it's in there.
And actually, they were one of the few companies that for a while was making. They made stainless steel hammers for the Angels as well. That was, of course, after you guys, but
right. I think we acquired a lot of their stuff for people asking. Like back, it's still like it is now, but people could say, I want this, I want that, I want these 4 boomsticks, or I want this barrel. And people would sometimes request their stuff. And so we worked with them in buying it wholesale, and get it like that. So probably that gun makes sense that it has a lot of their parts that Christian's getting.
He's going to whip it out.
I mean, this one, it's got your feed neck and then the air assist. And then also you moved the
IntelliFeed.
IntelliFeed. I mean, everything else is AKA, but.
Yeah, we would. You could send a gun in back then, and we would do almost any mod you wanted. But most people, if they sent it and got all the stuff.
Well, actually, it's funny you mentioned that, James, because I actually am one of the few people that sent you guys a gun, and it wasn't for all the stuff. All I wanted was my IntelliFeed port on the top back of my sight rail of my LED. So I sent you my Stars and Stripes and my brother's Dark Angel. And I'm like, that's all I want. I just want the charge port on the top of the gun.
That was pretty rare because, I mean, we didn't charge much. I don't know, like $15 for that, whatever it was. So most people got like the whole kit, so that was rare. Most people like, yeah, because Lee, the machinist, he hated doing those high rises because, somebody could buy the high rise and later send it in for the air assist, and he had to machine it just to hold the nipple, And I've said before, everything came from a master car, like the nipples, the hose, everything came from a master car that, besides the springs, like I said, I had custom made. Too bad Chad still doesn't have that book. That if you bought from a MasterCard, I don't know if they still do. They used to have a huge yellow book, and you would have all the pages tabs of the stuff we bought. Like you guys would love that now, right? Like you were buying, different parts. I could show you where we got it all. So.
I bet you the part numbers haven't even changed over here.
Yeah, probably the same. Well, we're past the 2-hour mark. So I think I'll get it wrapped up here. It's been awesome. We're getting some reverb from someone, I think. I don't know.
I had my earbud go back on.
Oh man! While Christian's getting that wrapped up, James, I do have a question for you. If you can choose your favorite gun besides any of your adrenaline guns, what do you think it would be in your whole history of playing paintball?
I mean, there's some amazing guns out now, right? I mean, better than like even our XLSs, but if you want to go back, pre to state of the art current technology, we really went head to head with Cobra, and I probably would have, if I didn't have our Angel back in the day, when we were really hot and heavy in the 2000, 2001, 2002 time, probably would have shot, his. It was, like I said, he did it. He's the only one that we felt did it like us. He spent a lot of time on it and thought it through, and he didn't make a lot. I don't know what his serial numbers were in the time we were doing it because we got out of it at some point. But he was doing a little bit less volume, but they were well thought out. So probably that. I hated everything before the Angel. Like I said, we shot an automag, but I hated it. So the only thing I did have that was cool. So does anyone remember the SMG 60? It was okay, as a Masters. Somebody Tippmann came out with a fully automatic 15 round gun. It held 15 rounds only, and clips. It looked like a military, right, Bob? Had the clip on the side, and you would put balls 62 caliber in these 5-round clips, and then feed the clips in. It would hold 15, and as it would shoot, the clips would come out. So like you may have like half the clip sticking out. And I had that, and that wasn't good because you can only shoot 15 rounds, so they would just wait, and then they'd come bunker you. But there was a guy that,
and it was fast. They were like, "Brap."
Yeah, right. You would just wait. That's 15. That's 15. And you try to like short it, like shoot 12, and to see if they missed their count.
Wait for them to come.
There was a guy kind of like Adrenaline back then that would take an SMG 60, make it 68 caliber, and make it semi-automatic, and hold a 40-round ammo box, which back then was a really cool thing. And I set mine off for that, and that was radical time. It's what later became the 68 Special, but he made it out of an SMG 60 before they were making the 68 Special. It wasn't even Tippmann, and that was that was even more than the Angels went against the Automags because everybody had pumps and the Rapides and stuff like that. And I'm rolling around with a 68 Special, which later became like a Pro-Am. It was a pretty nice semi-automatic.
So what was that called? And do you remember who he sent that to?
I don't remember the person. It was in the magazines, like, back when they had like the Tasso ads and the I Sports ads, it would be like a little half-page ad. It'd be like, do you have an SMG 60? Send it in. And there wasn't a thing as a 68 Special yet. So he would just say, it just had like, we'll make it 68 caliber, semi-automatic with a 40-round ammo box. They sent you the 40-round black ammo box with the gray, like Kodak camera style lid, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, like the film covers.
Yeah, like the film cover. And he sent it back like that. And it was a game changer, back when everybody's shooting pumps or, Rapides or something like that. And then later Tippmann did the same thing with the 68 Special.
So on your next gun, on your next Adrenaline, you're going to have some sort of like fully auto secret clip.
Yeah. Like I said, it was a bad thing though, because if you Google it, it was sweet. It was full automatic in the time, like everybody had pumps, but it literally held 15 rounds, and you couldn't reload it fast unless you had like an extra 5 clips, and then you're like trying to get them in, and it still didn't load fast. It was I had my first 2 guns. That was my second gun. So my first 2 guns were guns I had nightmares about. I showed I was not doing a good job.
Now the only nightmares you're having are about Kenneth Todd on hold with tech support.
Right.
Always. Haunt your dreams.
Come awake from a nightmare like, Kenneth!
Well, it wasn't James I was bugging most of the time. James would pick up the phone. It was always
let me just pass you to my assistant to the manager.
I was like, oh no, again?
And he would talk to him while he's working because he sat and worked on guns all day. So he just had the phone in the ear talking,
Same question every week. How's it going? How's it looking?
Yeah. We still get that now. Just not now we get it in, Facebook Messenger form,
Yeah.
See, not from you, but from so many people. Like, how's it looking? And
I got patience now, but back then when I was 17 years old, no way.
And I get it. Some of these people are, most of our customers now, like you guys, have grown up and have careers, but we still have new customers that are 22, and this is a big investment for them. And they're doing the Kenneth Todd, they're checking in all the time. But I'm not surprised. It's a big investment.
I can say back in the day, even if someone just had an Angel, like you were saying earlier, it was like, damn. I had a Phantom. You know what I mean? Like I was like a kid. I couldn't afford nothing.
Oh, and like any team. Like if you went to like a field, like who wants me to be on their team? Like that's the Angel guy.
Exactly. Yeah, the first electronic gun I saw was a shocker, and just the sound of it was like scared the crap out of it. Like you were like, what the? It was like cha 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 cha, and you were like, dang. So like if anybody had an Adrenaline, they were like few and far between. I think I might have saw one. you know what I mean, at my walk-on field.
So do you know how many Cobras were made in the LCD line? Because we didn't make anything.
He's got the
like
whole
that.
sheet.
Yeah, there's about 150, 140.
Because we were closer to around, I think, 500.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, they were. I don't know what yours retail were. There could get exceedingly expensive because they were doing like the air. They were doing like the air systems and all kinds of stuff.
Well, I had when I ordered my Fire LCD, I had an Armageddon anode to match. You know what I mean? So Adrenaline did that too.
Oh, we did some crazy expensive ones. I tell you, we did one Make-A-Wish gun, and like the Make-A-Wish Foundation, like a kid was, it was super a great honor, right? Like, you could have asked to meet Tom Cruise or whatever, and you wanted Adrenaline Angel. And so they had like an unlimited budget. Like, I don't remember, it was like $5,000. And so they got a Thunderstruck.
Wow.
Like, it's probably the package now that somebody has. I've seen it a couple times, but it's like every boomstick matching. I'm trying to think all the stuff he had.
Well, mine, like when I ordered from you, I had 3 matching boomsticks and a freak front and stuff, but you could keep going. I mean, you could order 5 boomsticks with the different,
Yeah,
four
he
sizes.
had every size boomstick with the Thunderstruck, and it was like a $4,000 order back then. You're talking like, now I worked it up once, like adjusted for inflation, and our Angels were like almost $3,000 if I sold them now. Like the base package. Yeah. So you're probably talking like a $6,000 or $7,000 order back then. But it was this awesome honor, and I don't know what happened. They never really followed up with the kid. Hopefully, maybe it worked out. But it was a cool thing to be involved with. But that one was the biggest one we ever did, because they said whatever he wants, and then he just loaded up.
Cool. Trevor's Thunderstruck's got like 4 or 5 barrels. Maybe he's got maybe it's that one.
I don't know, but it was. I know whatever sizes they had every single size.
Yeah, I think I ordered mine in like it was 686, and then the standard 688, and then 690. But I think you could go down and up one more time and get 5.
Yeah. Well, anything else, boys? I mean, this is a great show. Lots of content. 2 hours, 15 minutes.
Big time.
Like I said, we'll probably do an impulse one. That was our next progression, and then, but I just wanted to, give the origins of how we got started and how we do things, and any project we do, we're gonna do it the exact same way. But it's worked for us in the past, so why change it, right? So
definitely
an iconic paintball manufacturer right here.
And we're so unknown. I realize that, like, so we have an ego, like, oh, we're like the Bugatti, like everybody knows us, like you can't afford us, but at least know of us. But but that's not the case. We go to like the World Cup, and we're at the booth, and like they're blown up. Like people are coming through. We were in the DLX booth at World Cup last year, and we had a table. So they had all their stuff, and we had one table. And people just person after person coming by, like blown away, mostly by the anodizing brought them over. We picked the best callers to show off, and they were just blown away. But like no one knew who we were. I was like, this is not. I don't feel cool. Like they're like, who are you guys? Like, this is cool. Why do I not know what this is? So it's funny, the young crowd definitely doesn't not aware of the brand. So
yeah, they weren't even born when you were making the Angels. So
do you have any of your old Angels at all?
I do not. And on the impulse I shared it the other day. Somebody Hans gave me one as a paperweight. It's just a body. I don't have none of the old guns. It's crazy. And like I said, I regret it. Like, the one that you have, I regret selling it. And the first I've never been a collector. I've always had like my one gun and took good care of it. So I only had the one LCD. I only had the serial number 1, and I regret selling that too. I'd love to have them, on the wall, but I don't even know where that one's at. So.
Yeah, that one hasn't turned up, as far as I know.
I'll be keeping the shocker no matter what we do. Even if we do another shocker with this, I'm not going to pull that mistake again.
You learned your lesson, yeah.
Juan's is a good guy though. I think he still has like 1 or 2 Angels. I was talking to him like a week or so ago, but yeah, he had like a couple Angels and I think like a Bushmaster and some other like Sovereign or something like that. I was like, where the heck did you get these?
Well, he used to play. We used to butt heads with them because him and his brother used to play for the Johnstown Highlanders back way before he was on the All-Americans, and we would go like the Amateur Open, like early '90s. And him and his brother, that was a really good team, and we would always end up facing them in the semifinals. They were one of the tough teams, and so I knew him before he was at Shocker even.
Yeah, he's like the Donatello behind GOG. You know, he's like the brain.
Oh, no
The
one knows who
brains
he
and-
is, but he is like, he's just built and designed so many things over the years.
Right.
I mean, I'm not taking anything away from him. I mean, he's a quiet guy. He doesn't want the spotlight. But
Right.
if everyone knew what he really did, it's like he's, anything that they've come up with, it's, amazing. Most of the stuff he did.
Yeah. And just for the record, so that no one blows up his inbox, the Angels aren't private label adrenaline. So just don't blow them up. But getting back to that one that you said, whenever people come up to your booth at like World Cup or whatever, and they're like blown away, I think a lot of that has to do with current gun manufacturers that put out these private label guns, and they take strategically angled pictures with perfect lighting so that their guns milling and anodized like look like they're gloss and they're popping, but then they receive these guns in real life and it's just like boring satin or boring dust, and the anodizing isn't that great. But then when they see your guns in real life, they're like, wow, these types of guns do exist with super high gloss finishes. So there is something to say about that, and I think it just can't be captured in photos. So, but keep on doing it. That's my
right. Like, some people are good
Absolutely.
at polish, and some people aren't. And some people charge me a lot more because they'll spend, like, some people say I'll do an hour, where Steven's going to spend like 2 hours. But you get what you pay for. They're mirrors.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. So.
Do you envision your next gun being a mech, or is that too much?
Whatever we do, I'm not going to spill anything more till November 6th. I am not making something that is not a mech on its own or mech capable.
Mech
because
capable, yeah.
That's what we play. Again, we're out this for ourselves. I mean, like, we do like the fact that people love the guns. We, and our brand is spreading. We first came back to Facebook. We had 100 followers. Now we got like 3,000. We like that, but we mostly play because we love it, and we want to have the best stuff that we can possibly come up with. And we enjoy, like I said, kind of like the hot rod tuner guys. That's us for paintball. We like it, and so we're not going to make anything that we can't use ourselves. And we're not. Although we're playing Export World Cup. I don't know if you saw, we posted that. It's going to be more of a project. It's for fun. A bunch of 40-year-olds, playing against a bunch of 20-year-olds that they probably play every weekend. We're a mech team. So.
Yeah, I'll make sure that Tom Cole has enough wheelchairs for all you guys.
Right. I actually talked to him about it because they were full, and I was trying to get that last spot at Semi-Pro World Cup, and it's because of COVID, it was limited. And I said, dude, it's such a good story. Like, we'll probably get smoked, but I said, we were at the ICPL in Chicago, and I said, all these X-ballers come to our Woods event, the guys that play every single weekend. And now the winners are like, Dynasty or Infamous, or it's these X-ball teams. And it's hard for me to compete against a guy that's shooting his gun every single weekend and playing pro events all over the world when we're trying to get together like 3 times a year, So right. I said, if they're coming to our events, it's just a good story. If we go to one of their events and a bunch of 40-year-olds even beat up a couple teams, like, let's go help us get into their event, we'll try to at least not embarrass ourselves. And so that's, we did. So
cool.
I can't promise we won't embarrass ourselves, but we're going to try to.
You can try.
Well, I really appreciate you guys coming on. You guys, I've had tons of Angels over the years. Trevor still has tons behind him, Bob works on them nonstop. So you guys know your stuff. I'm excited to talk in 2 weeks. Tune in about our next project.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be, we're not going to do something unless we can bring something to the table. So it should be good. So
looking forward to it.
Well, thank you for having us, James.
Yeah, guys. Well, again, thanks again. And then we'll probably do one next week too. I don't know what we're going to do, but definitely in 2 weeks is the big show. So make sure everybody tunes in.
Cool.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks guys.
Awesome.
Have a good night, guys.